So for anyone who's just joining us for this series, today is 6 out of probably 7 episodes of reading A Tree Grows in Brooklyn, which is a classic book from the 40s, if I remember right, but it's chronicling the life of someone who lived in the 1900s, 1910s, 1920s. And we're on chapter 45. So let's begin. Please let me know if the music is too loud. Christmas again, but this year there was money for presents and lots of food in the icebox, and the flat was always warm now. When Francie came in off the cold street, she thought that the warmth was like a lover's arms around her, drawing her into the room. She wondered, incidentally, exactly what a lover's arms felt like. Francie took comfort out of not returning to school in the realization that the money she earned made life easier for them. Mama had been very fair. When Francie was raised to $20 a week, Mama gave her $5 a week for herself to pay for her car fare, lunches, and clothes. Also, Katie deposited $5 each week in Francie's name in the Williamsburg Savings Bank. For college, she explained. Katie managed well on the remaining $10 and $1 that Neely contributed. It wasn't a fortune, but things were cheap in 1916, and the Nolans got along fine. One moment. I can bring a microphone over a little better. Neely had taken to school cheerfully when he found that many of his old gang were entering Eastern District High. He had his old after-school job back at McGarrity's, and Mama gave him one of the $2 for pocket money. He was somebody in school. He had more spending money than most boys, and he knew Julius Caesar backwards, forwards, and upside down. When they opened the tin can bank, there was nearly $4 in it. Neely added another $1, and Francie $5, and they had $10 to spend for Christmas presents. The three of them went shopping the afternoon before Christmas, taking Lori with them. First, they went to buy Mama a new hat. In the hat store, they stood behind Mama's chair while she held the baby in her lap and tried on hats. Francie wanted her to have a jade green velvet one, but there wasn't a hat of that color to be found in Williamsburg. Mama thought she ought to get a black hat. We're buying the hat, not you, Francie told her, and we say no more mourning hats. Try on this red one, Mama, suggested Neely. No, I'll try on that very dark green one in the window. It's a new shade, said the woman proprietor, getting it out of the window. We call it moss green. She set it straight on Katie's brow. With an impatient flick of her hand, Katie tilted the hat over one eye. That's it, declared Neely. Mama, you look beautiful, was Francie's verdict. I like it, decided Mama. How much? She asked the woman. The woman drew a long breath, and she and the Nolans girded themselves for bargaining. It's like this, began the woman. How much? Repeated Katie inflexibly. In New York, $10 would you pay for the same merchandise, but if I wanted to pay $10, I'd go to New York for a hat. Is that a way to talk? Exact copy, same hat, in Wanamaker's is $7.50. Pregnant pause. I'm going to give you identical hat for $5. I have exactly $2 to spend on a hat. Get out from my store, shouted the woman dramatically. All right, Katie gathered up the baby and got to her feet. You must be so hasty? The woman pushed her back into the chair. She thrust the hat into a paper bag. I'm letting you take it home for $4.50. Believe me, my own mother-in-law shouldn't have it for that price. I believe you, thought Katie, especially if she's like my mother-in-law. Aloud, she said, the hat's nice, but I can only afford $2. There are lots of other hat stores, and I ought to get one for that. Not as good as this one, but good enough to keep the wind off my head. I want you should listen. The woman made her voice deep and sincere. They say that by the Jews, money is everything. By me, it's different. When I got a pretty hat and it goes with a pretty customer, something happens to me here. She put a hand on her heart. I get so... Profits is nothing. I give free. She pushed the bag into Katie's hand. Take the hat for $4. That's what it cost me wholesale. She sighed. Believe me, a businesswoman I shouldn't be. Better I should be a picture painter. And the bargaining went on. Katie knew when the price finally reached $2.50 that the woman wouldn't go lower. She tested her by pretending she was leaving. But this time the woman made no attempt to stop her. Francie nodded to Neely. He gave the woman $2.50. You shouldn't tell nobody how cheap you got it, warned the woman. We won't, promised Francie. Put the hat in a box. 10 cents extra is a box, what it cost me wholesale. A bag's good enough, protested Katie. This is your Christmas present, said Francie, and it goes in a box. Neely got out another dime. The hat was wrapped in tissue and put in a box. I give it to you so cheap you should come back next time you buy a hat, but don't expect such bargains next time. Katie laughed. As they left, the woman said, wear it in good health. Thank you. As the door closed on them, the woman whispered bitterly, Goyim, and spat after them. On the street, Neely said, no wonder Mama waits 5 years to buy a new hat if it's all that trouble. Trouble? Said Francie. Why, that's fun. Next, they went to Siegler's to buy a sweater suit for Lori's Christmas. When Siegler saw Francie, he let loose a flood of abuse. So, at last you come in mine store. Is something maybe other day good stores ain't got and you come by me? Maybe by other store is Dickie penny cheaper but damaged stock? No. He turned to Katie and explained. So many years comes this girl by me to buy Dickies and paper collars for the papa. Now for a whole year already she don't come. Her father died a year ago, explained Katie. Mr. Siegler gave his forehead a mighty blow with the flat of his hand. Oi, by me is so big the mouth so my foot always goes in, he apologized. That's all right, said Katie soothingly. It's this way by me. Nobody tells me nothing and I don't know till now. That's the way it always is, said Katie. And now, he asked briskly, getting down to business, what can I show you? A sweater suit for a 7-month-old baby. I got here exactal size. He took a blue wool outfit from a box, but when they held it up to Lori, the sweater reached only to her navel and the leggings went to just below her knees. They measured other sizes and found a 2-year-old size that was just right. Mr. Siegler went into ecstasies. I'm in dry goods business 20 years, 15 on Grand Street and 5 on Graham Amyer, and never in Zleben do I see a 7 months so big. And the Nolans glowed with pride. There was no bargaining because Siegler's was a one-price store. Neely counted out $3. They put the suit on the baby then and there. She looked cute with the zipful cap pulled down over her ears. The bright blue color brought out the rosiness of her skin. You'd think she understood the way she acts so pleased, flashing her 2-toothed smile about indiscriminately. Ach du Liebchen, crooned Siegler, hands clasped prayerfully. She should wear it in good health. This time the wish was not nullified by him spitting after them. Mama went home with the baby in her new hat, while Neely and Francie continued their Christmas shopping. They bought small gifts for their Flit and cousins and something for Sissy's baby. Then it was time for their own gifts. I'll tell you what I want, and you can buy it for me, said Neely. All right, what? Spats. Spats? Francie's voice scaled up. Pearl gray ones, he said firmly. If that's what you want, she began dubiously. Medium size. How do you know the size? I went in and tried them on yesterday. He gave Francie $1.50 and she bought the spats. She had the man wrap them in a gift box. On the street, she presented the package to Neely while they frowned solemnly at each other. From me to you, Merry Christmas, said Francie. Thank you, he replied formally. And now, what do you want? A black lace dance set in the window of that store near Union Avenue. Is that lady stuff? Asked Neely uneasily. Uh-huh. 24 waist and 32 bust, $2. You buy it. I don't like to ask for anything like that. She bought the coveted dance set, panties and brassiere made of scraps of black lace held together by narrow black satin ribbon. Neely disapproved and muttered an ungracious "You're welcome" to her thanks. They passed a Christmas tree curb market. Remember the time, said Neely, when we let the man chuck the biggest tree at us? Do I? Every time I get a headache, it's in the place where the tree hit me. And the way Papa sang when he helped us get the tree up the stairs, recalled Neely. Several times that day, the name or thought of Papa had come up. And each time, Francie had felt a flash of tenderness instead of the old stab of pain. Am I forgetting him, she thought? In time to come, will it be hard to remember anything about him? I guess it's like Grandma Mary Romilly says, with time passes all. The first year was hard because we could say, last election he voted, last Thanksgiving he ate with us, but next year it will be 2 years ago that he, and as time passes it will be harder and harder to remember and keep track. Look, Neely grabbed her arm and pointed to a 2-foot fir tree in a wooden tub. It's growing, she cried out. What do you think? They all have to grow in the beginning. I know, still and all, you always see them cut off and get the idea that they grow chopped down. Let's buy it, Neely. It's awful little, but it has roots. When they brought it home, Katie examined the tree and the line between her eyes deepened as she figured something out. Yes, she said, after Christmas we'll put it on the fire escape and see that it gets sun and water and once a month horse manure. No, Mama, protested Francie. You're not going to put that horse manure over on us. As small children, gathering horse manure had been one of their most dreaded chores. Grandma Mary Romilly kept a row of scarlet geraniums on her windowsill, and they were strong and bright and clear-colored because once a month, either Francie or Neely had to go out on the streets with a cigar box and fill it with 2 neat rows of manure balls. On delivery, Grandma made payment of 2 cents. Francie had been ashamed to gather horse manure. Once she had protested to Grandma, who had answered, Aye, the blood runs thin in the 3rd generation. Back in Austria, my good brothers loaded large wagons with the manure, and they were strong and honorable men. They'd have to be, Francie had thought, to work with stuff like that. Okay, let me have a quick tea break here. See where the end of the chapter is. And if we, no, let's take a little break now. It's going to be a little while before the end of the chapter. Now I'm trying this tea when it's cold, and it is even more sweet and like floral and fruity than before. Gosh, that's good. All right. I'll keep reading, and then at the end of the chapter, we can cut into the little cake here. So they bought a grow your own Christmas tree this time. Okay. Katie was saying, now that we own a tree, we have to take care of it and make it grow. You can get manure in the dark of night if you're ashamed. There's so few horses now, mostly automobiles. It's hard to get, argued Neely. Go on a cobblestone street where autos don't go, and if there isn't any manure, wait for a horse and follow him until there is. Gee whiz, protested Neely. I'm sorry we ever bought the old tree. What's the matter with us, said Francie. These aren't olden times. We've got money now. All we have to do is give some old kid on the block a nickel and he'll collect it for us. Yeah, agreed Neely, relieved. I should think, said Mama, that you'd want to take care of your tree with your own hands. The difference between rich and poor, said Francie, is that the poor do everything with their own hands, and the rich hire hands to do things. We're not poor anymore. We can pay to have some things done for us. I want to stay poor then, said Katie, because I like to use my hands. Neely, as always, became bored when his mother and sister began one of their figuring out conversations. To change the subject, he said, I bet Laurie's as big as that tree. They fished the baby out of her basket and measured her against the tree. Exactly the same height, said Francie, imitating Mr. Siegler. I wonder which will grow the fastest, said Neely. Neely, we've never had a puppy or a kitten, so let's make a pet out of the tree. Aw, a tree can't be a pet. Why can't it? It lives and breathes, doesn't it? We'll give it a name. Annie. The tree's Annie and the baby's Laurie, and together they're the song. You know what? Asked Neely. No, what? You're crazy, that's what. I know it, and isn't it wonderful? Today I don't feel like Miss Nolan, supposed to be 17, and head reader of the Model Press Clipping Bureau. It's like olden times when I had to let you carry the junk money. I feel just like a kid. And you are, said Katie. A kid just turned 15. Yeah, you won't think so when you see what Neely bought me for Christmas. What you made me buy you, corrected Neely. Show Mama what you made me buy you for Christmas, Smarty. Just go on and show her, urged Francie. When he showed Mama, her voice scaled up like Francie's when she said, "Spats?" "Just to keep my ankles warm," explained Neely. Francie showed her dance set, and Mama let loose her, "Oh my," of astonishment. "Do you think that's what fast women wear?" said Francie, hopefully. "If they do, I'm sure they all come down with pneumonia. Now let's see. What'll we have for supper?" "Aren't you going to object?" Francie was disappointed because Mama wasn't making a fuss. "No, all women go through a black lace drawer's time. You came to it earlier than most, and you'll get over it sooner. I think we'll heat up the soup and have that, and soup meat and potatoes." Mama thinks she knows everything, thought Francie resentfully. They attended Mass together Christmas morning. Katie was having a prayer said for the repose of Johnny's soul. She looked very pretty in her new hat. The baby looked nice too in her new outfit. Neely, wearing his new spats, manfully insisted on carrying the baby. As they passed Stagg Street, some boys hanging out in front of a candy store hooted at Neely. His face got red. Francie knew they were making fun of his spats, and to save his feelings, she pretended they hooted because he was carrying a baby, and she offered to take Lori. He refused the offer. He knew as well as she did that they were making fun of his spats, and he was filled with bitterness at the narrow-mindedness of Williamsburg. He decided to put the spats away in the box when he got home and not wear them again until they moved to a more decent neighborhood. Francie was wearing her lace pants and freezing. Whenever an icy wind blew her coat apart and went through her thin dress, it was as if she had no underwear on at all. How I wish I had my flannel bloomers on," she mourned. Mama was right. A person could get pneumonia, but I wouldn't give her the satisfaction of letting her know. I guess I'll have to put these lace things away until summer. Inside the church, they preempted a whole front pew by laying Lori full length on the seat. Several latecomers, thinking there was an empty seat, genuflected at the pew's entrance and prepared to enter. When they saw the baby stretched out over two places, they scowled fiercely at Katie, who sat rigid, and scowled back twice as fiercely. Francie thought it was the most beautiful church in Brooklyn. It was made of old gray stone and had twin spires that rose cleanly into the sky, high above the tallest tenements. Inside, the high vaulted ceilings, narrow, deep-set stained glass windows, and elaborately carved altars made it a miniature cathedral. Francie was proud of the center altar because the left side had been carved by Grandpa Romilly more than half a century ago when, as a young fellow lately come from Austria, he had begrudgingly given his tithe of labor to his church. The thrifty man had gathered up the bits of gouged out wood and taken them home. Stubbornly, he had fitted and glued the scraps together and carved out 3 small crucifixes from the blessed wood. Mary gave one to each of her daughters on their wedding day, with instruction that the crosses were to be passed on to the first daughter in each succeeding generation. Katie's crucifix hung high on the wall over the mantelpiece at home. It would be Francie's when she married, and she was proud that it had come from the wood of that fine altar. Today, the altar was lovely, with banked scarlet poinsettias and fir boughs, with the golden points of lighted, slender white candles gleaming among the leaves. The thatched creche was inside the altar rail. Francie knew that the tiny hand-carved figures of Mary, Joseph, the kings, and shepherds were grouped about the child in the manger as they had first been grouped 100 years ago, when they had been brought over from the old country. The priest entered, followed by the altar boys. Over his other vestments, he wore a white satin chasuble, I guess is how you say that, with a golden cross on the front and back. Francie knew that the chasuble was symbolic of the seamless garment, supposedly woven by Mary, that they had removed from Christ before they nailed him to the cross. It was said that on Calvary, the soldiers, not wishing to divide the garment, had cast dice for it while Jesus was dying. Absorbed in her thoughts, Francie missed the beginning of the Mass. She picked it up now, following the familiar Latin in translation. To thee, O God, my God, I will give praise upon the harp. Why art thou said, my soul, and why dost thou disquiet me, chanted the priest in his rich, deep voice. Hope in God, for I will still give praise to him, responded the altar boy. Glory be to the Father, and to the Son, and to the Holy Ghost, as it was in the beginning, is now, and ever shall be, world without end. Amen, came the response. I will go unto the altar of God, chanted the priest. To God, who giveth joy to my youth, came the response. Our help is in the name of the Lord, who made heaven and earth. The priest bowed and recited the Confiteor. Francie believed with all her heart that the altar was Calvary and that again Jesus was offered up as a sacrifice. As she listened to the consecrations, one for his body and one for his blood, she believed that the words of the priest were a sword which mystically separated the blood from the body. And she knew, without knowing how to explain why, that Jesus was entirely present, body, blood, soul, and divinity, in the wine, in the golden chalice, and in the bread on the golden plate. It's a beautiful religion, she mused, and I wish I understood it more. No, I don't want to understand it all. It's beautiful because it's always a mystery, like God himself is a mystery. Sometimes I say I don't believe in God, but I only say that when I'm mad at him. Because I do. I believe in God and Jesus and Mary. I'm a bad Catholic because I miss Mass once in a while, and I grumble when, at confession, I get a heavy penance for something I couldn't help doing. But good or bad, I am a Catholic, and I'll never be anything else. Of course, I didn't ask to be born a Catholic, no more than I asked to be born an American, but I'm glad it turned out that I'm both these things. The priest ascended the curved steps to the pulpit. Your prayers are requested, intoned his magnificent voice, for the repose of the soul of John Nolan. Nolan, sighed the echoes of the vaulted ceiling. With a sound like an anguished whisper, nearly 1,000 people knelt to pray briefly, for the soul of a man only a dozen of them had known. Francie began the prayer for the souls in purgatory. Good Jesus, whose loving heart was ever troubled by the sorrows of others, look with pity on the soul of our dear one in purgatory. O you who loved your own, hear my cry for mercy. Okay, that's the end of the chapter. Well, that's a lot of Catholic stuff, isn't it? A lot of Catholicism right there. Let me set this aside. We're going to have some more snacks. And since my tea is, entirely cold by now, I'm going to give some to some of the tea pets here. Oh, I know you cannot see very well. Well, you can't see them at all right now, but we've got... Oh, see this little piggy. He does not sit up. I'll give him some of the cold tea and then also the other two little froggies. And I am a little concerned that I made that a little too strong for me, so I'm going to go ahead and make a new pot and steep it very, very briefly. And then we'll cut into this cake over here. Okay. So we're going to do a very short steep on this. Oh, let's see if I can move the camera over a little bit more. Because you can't even see anything with that tea right now. Pinched myself. Yeah, there we go. That's better, right? You can see and then I can just swap it out, put the little leaf filter and pour it, and you can sort of see that happening there. If I bring the teapot into the shot, well, I can do it left-handed, I guess. But depending on the angle, it's possible to pour it on my keyboard, so I'm trying to be a little careful. And it still came out a very rich, deep color. Okay. I do like this track by Johnny Bailey, Manga Cafe. Again, we got a very rich color. He saw that. I couldn't have brewed that for more than 15 seconds or so. So there we have that. Good. Okay, gonna bring the cake in here. And it's probably getting pretty soggy on the bottom. A soggy bottom, as they say on the Great British Baking Show. And all these strawberries, making it, sort of... I didn't put any sugar on the strawberries, so they're not making like strawberry shortcake, but sort of, a little bit. So I'm just going to cut right through that. Just a little wedge. With my super sharp knife. I resharpened this knife recently. Well, I mean, honed it. This is my expensive little, more than a paring knife, less than a chef knife. It's a kind of a medium-sized knife. It's called Kitchen Kiji, and it arrived extremely sharp, scalpel sharp, which has been great for cooking. But since we use it for literally everything we cut, not packages, every food. This is the one we reach for. And then I have a larger knife for, chopping larger vegetables and things like that. But anything that we can handle with this knife, like we're both reaching for it. So it gets a lot of use, and it does get, slightly dull over time. So I just sharpened it again, and it is back, baby. Yeah, cut this. So now you can kind of see what the limoncello panettone looks like inside. I guess I'll pull that out. There. So it is sort of a bready cake. It's not very sweet. I don't know whether to call this a bread or a cake. Cake bread. It is apparently naturally leavened, like a sourdough kind of thing, but it doesn't taste like sourdough. But it is kind of I guess you'd call it a sweet bread, but it's not very sweet. Looks like a cake. Kind of eats like a very light bread. Okay, that bite did taste lemony. Again, it's not, lemon meringue pie lemony. But I did get a feel for the, all of a sudden a limoncello feeling from it. That probably means that piece that I bit had a piece of lemon peel in it. Very nice. Okay, and we'll go ahead and open one of these senbei as well. Glad I still have the scissors handy. It seems like I have a lot of packages to open today. Whoa. Look at this thing. It's all cratered with cracks. That's crunchy. It's very thick. Delish. Super crunchy. Okay. I'll enjoy a little piece of that, the piece that broke off there, with a bit more tea, and then we can move on. Just a reminder, too, that if you have not heard the beginning of the book and you don't know the story and you want to catch up, I do have a YouTube channel. And that link is periodically coming up in the chat every, 20 minutes or so. And I have posted part 1 and part 2. And I'm working on editing, part 3 and 4 and whatever. So I'll just keep releasing those onto YouTube. And they're certainly not professionally edited YouTube videos by any means, but I'm taking out like the chat and stuff at the beginning. And, any talk about snacks or whatever, and just starting it when I start reading the book. And taking out, any breaks that happen in the middle of the stream, for example, the BRB screen, and just, like what we're talking about right now, for example, I would take that out and just try to make it as seamless as possible when I start reading again, so that you can get through the story in a shorter time. Okay, loving that. Much better now. With the strawberry, it really brings out the tartness of the lemon flavor. The blueberries were good. That's how I originally had it, but I really feel like the strawberries are better. That's good eating right there. Third time's a charm, they say. This is the third one we've eaten. All right, well, that was very satisfying. Let's pick back up. On chapter 46. In 10 more minutes, announced Francie, it will be 1917. Francie and her brother were sitting side by side with their stocking feet inside the oven of the kitchen range. Mama, who had given strict orders to be called 5 minutes before midnight, was resting on her bed. I have a feeling, continued Francie, that 1917 will be more important than any year we've ever had. You say that about every year, claimed Neely. First 1915 was going to be the most important, then 1916, and now 1917. It will be important. For one thing, in 1917, I'll be 16 for real instead of just in the office. And other important things have started already. The landlord's putting in wires. In a few weeks, we'll have electricity instead of gas. Suits me. Then he's going to rip out these stoves and put in steam heat. Gee, I'll miss this old stove. Remember how in olden times, 2 years ago, I used to sit on the stove? And I used to be afraid you'd catch on fire. I feel like sitting on the stove right now. Go ahead. He sat on the surface furthest away from the firebox. It was pleasantly warm, but not hot. Remember, Francie went on, how we did our examples on this hearthstone? And the time Papa got us a real blackboard eraser, and then the stone was like the blackboard in school, only lying down? Yeah, that was a long time ago. But look, you can't claim 1917 is going to be important because we'll have electricity and steam heat. Other flats have had them for years. That's nothing important. The important thing about this year is that we'll get into the war. When? Soon. Next week. Next month. How do you know? I read the papers every day, brother. 200 of them. Oh boy, I hope it lasts till I'm old enough to join the Navy. Who's joining the Navy? They looked around, startled. Mama was standing in the bedroom doorway. We're just talking, Mama, explained Francie. You forgot to call me, said Mama reproachfully, and I thought I heard a whistle. It must be New Year's now. Francie threw open the window. It was a frosty night without a wind. All was still. Across the yards, the backs of the houses were dark and brooding. As they stood at the window, they heard the joyous peal of a church bell. Then other bell sounds tumbled over the first pealing. Whistles came in. A siren shrieked. Darkened windows banged open. Tin horns were added to the cacophony. Someone fired off a blank cartridge. There were shouts and catcalls. 1917. The sounds died away and the air was filled with waiting. Someone started to sing. Should old acquaintance be forgot and never brought to mind? The Nolans picked up the song. One by one, the neighbors joined in, and they all sang. But as they sang, something disquieting came around among them. A group of Germans were singing around. The German words crowded into Auld Lang Syne. I'm not sure if I can read that, but I don't know what it means. Does anyone speak German? Ja, das ist ein Gartenhaus, Gartenhaus, Gartenhaus. Ach du schön, ach du schön, ach du schön, Gartenhaus. I think I said that basically right. Someone shouted, "Shut up, you lousy heinies," and answer the German song swelled mightily and drowned out Auld Lang Syne. Excuse me. In retaliation, the Irish shouted a parody of the song across the dark backyards. Yeah, das is a goddamn song, goddamn song, goddamn song. Oh do lousy, oh do lousy, oh do lousy heiny song. Windows could be heard shutting as the Jews and Italians withdrew, leaving the fight to the Germans and Irish. The Germans sang, Lustier and more voices came in until they killed the parody even as they had killed Auld Lang Syne. The Germans won. They finished their interminable rounds in shouting triumph. Francie shivered. I don't like Germans, she said. They're so persistent when they want something, and they've always got to be ahead. Once more the night was quiet. Francie grabbed her mother and Neely. All together now, she ordered. The three of them leaned out of the window and shouted, Happy New Year, everybody! An instant of silence, then out of the dark, a thick Irish brogue shouted, Happy New Year, yous and Nolans! Now who could that be, puzzled Katie. Happy New Year, you dirty Irish Mick! Neely screamed back. Mama clapped her hand over his mouth and pulled him away while Francie slammed the window down. All three of them were laughing hysterically. Now you did it, gasped Francie, laughing so hard that she cried. He knows who we are, and he'll come around here and fight, gurgled Katie, so weak from laughing that she had to hold on to the table. Who was it? Old man O'Brien. Last week he cursed me out of his yard, the dirty Irish. Hush, said Mama. You know that whatever you do when the new year starts, you'll do all year. And you don't want to go around saying dirty Irish Mick like a busted record, do you? Asked Francie. Besides, you're a Mick yourself. You too, accused Neely. We're all Irish except Mama. And I'm Irish by marriage, she said. Well, do us Irish drink a toast on New Year's Eve, or don't we? Demanded Francie. Of course, said Mama. I'll mix us a drink. McGarity had given the Nolans a bottle of fine old brandy for Christmas. Now Katie poured a small jiggerful of it into each of 3 tall glasses. She filled the rest of each glass with beaten egg and milk mixed with a little sugar. She grated nutmeg and sprinkled it on the top. That's eggnog, right? Her hands were steady as she worked, though she considered this drinking tonight as something crucial. She worried constantly that the children might have inherited the Nolan love of drink. She had tried to come to an attitude about liquor in the family. She felt that if she preached against it, the children, unpredictable individualists that they were, might consider drinking forbidden and fascinating. On the other hand, if she made light of it, they might consider drunkenness a natural thing. She decided neither to make nothing of it nor much of it, to proceed as though drinking was no more or less than something to be moderately indulged in at seasonal times. Well, New Year's was such a time. She handed each a glass. A lot depended on their reactions. What do we drink to? Asked Francie. To a hope, said Katie. A hope that our family will always be together the way it is tonight. Wait, said Francie. Get Lori so she's together with us too. Katie got the patient, sleeping baby out of her crib and carried her into the warm kitchen. Lori opened her eyes, lifted her head, and showed 2 teeth in a befuddled smile. Then her head went down on Katie's shoulder and she was asleep again. Now, said Francie, holding up her glass, to being together always. They clicked glasses and drank. Neely tasted his drink, frowned, and said he'd rather have plain milk. He poured the drink down the sink and filled another glass with cold milk. Katie watched, worried, as Francie drained her glass. It's good, Francie said. Pretty good, but not half as good as a vanilla ice cream soda. What am I worrying about? Sang Katie inwardly. After all, they're as much Romilly as Nolan, and we Romillys are not drinking people. Neely, let's go up on the roof, said Francie impulsively, and see how the whole world looks at the beginning of a year. Okay, he agreed. Put your shoes on first, ordered Mama, and your coats. They climbed the shaky wooden ladder. Neely pushed the opening aside and they were on the roof. The night was heady and frosty. There was no wind and the air was cold and still. The stars were brilliant and hung low in the sky. There were so many stars that their light made the sky a deep cobalt blue. There wasn't a moon, but the starlight served better than moonlight. Francie stood on tiptoe and stretched her arms wide. Oh, I want to hold it all, she cried. I want to hold the way the night is, cold without wind, and the way the stars are so near and shiny. I want to hold all of it tight until it hollers out, let me go, let me go. Don't stand so near the edge, said Neely uneasily. You might fall off the roof. I need someone, thought Francie desperately. I need someone. I need to hold somebody close. And I need more than this holding. I need someone to understand how I feel at a time like now. And the understanding must be part of the holding. I love Mama and Neely and Lori, but I need someone to love in a different way from the way I love them. If I talked to Mama about it, she'd say, yes, well, when you get that feeling, don't linger in dark hallways with the boys. She'd worry too, thinking I was going to be the way Sissy used to be. But it isn't an Aunt Sissy thing, because there's this understanding that I want an understanding that I want almost more than I want the holding. If I told Sissy or Evie, they'd talk the same as Mama, although Sissy was married at 14 and Evie at 16. Mama was only a girl when she married, but they've forgotten. And they'd tell me I was too young to be having such ideas. I'm young maybe in just being 15, but I'm older than those years in some things. But there is no one for me to hold and no one to understand. Maybe someday. Someday. She's a philosophical little thing, isn't she? Neely, if you had to die, wouldn't it be wonderful to die now, while you believe that everything was perfect, the way this night is perfect? You know what? Asked Neely. No, what? You're drunk from that milk punch, that's what. She clenched her hands and advanced on him. Don't you say that. Don't you ever say that. He backed away, frightened at her fierceness. That's all right, he stammered. I was drunk myself once. She lost her anger in curiosity. Were you, Neely? Honest? Yeah, one of the fellers had some bottles of beer and we went down the cellar and drank it. I drank 2 bottles and got drunk. What did it feel like? Well, first the whole world turned upside down. Then everything was like, you know those cardboard toots you buy for a penny and you look in the small end and turn the big end and pieces of colored paper keep falling around and they never fall around the same way twice? Mostly, though, I was very dizzy. Afterwards, I vomited. Then I've been drunk too, admitted Francie. On beer? No, last spring in McCarran's Park I saw a tulip for the first time in my life. How'd you know it was a tulip if you've never seen one? I'd seen pictures. Well, when I looked at it, the way it was growing, and how the leaves were, and how purely red the petals were with yellow inside, the world turned upside down and everything went around like the colors in a kaleidoscope, like you said. I was so dizzy that I had to sit on a park bench. Did you throw up too? No, she answered, and I've got that same feeling here on this roof tonight, and I know it's not the milk punch. Gee. She remembered something. Mama tested us when she gave us that milk punch. I know it. Poor Mama, said Neely, but she doesn't have to worry about me. I'll never get drunk again because I don't like to throw up. And she doesn't have to worry about me either. I don't need to drink to get drunk. I can get drunk on things like the tulip. And this night. I guess it is a swell night, agreed Neely. It's so still and bright, almost holy. She waited. If Papa were with her now, Neely sang, silent night, holy night. All is calm, all is bright. He's just like Papa, she thought happily. She looked out over Brooklyn, the starlight half revealed, half concealed. She looked out over the flat roofs, uneven in height, broken once in a while by a slanting roof from a house left over from older times. The chimney pots on the roofs, and on some, the shadowing looming of pigeon cotes. Sometimes faintly heard the sleepy cooing of pigeons. The twin spires of the church remotely brooding over the dark tenements, and at the end of their street, the great bridge that threw itself like a sigh across the East River and was lost on the other shore. The dark East River beneath the bridge, and far away the misty gray skyline of New York, looking like a city cut from cardboard. There's no other place like it, Francie said. Like what? Brooklyn, it's a magic city and it isn't real. It's just like any other place. It isn't. I go to New York every day, and New York's not the same. I went to Bayonne once to see a girl from the office who was homesick. And Bayonne isn't the same. It's mysterious here in Brooklyn. It's like a dream. The houses and streets don't seem real. Neither do the people. They're real enough, the way they fight and holler at each other, and the way they're poor and dirty, too. But it's like a dream of being poor and fighting. They don't really feel these things. It's like it's all happening in a dream. Brooklyn is no different than any other place, said Neely firmly. It's only your imagination makes it different. But that's all right, he added magnanimously, as long as it makes you feel so happy. Neely, so much like Mama, so much like Papa, the best of each in Neely. She loved her brother. She wanted to put her arms around him and kiss him, but he was like Mama. He hated people to be demonstrative. If she tried to kiss him, he'd get mad and push her away. So she held out her hand instead. Happy New Year, Neely. The same to you. They shook hands solemnly. Oh, hey, Stormy Waddle, welcome in. Good afternoon to you, or wherever you are. I mean, whatever time it is where you are. Here's a picture of New Year's Eve, or I guess you could say New Year's early morning, on the roof of the Nolan's apartment tenement block. And I think that's the end of a chapter, so we can take a quick break. Yes, it's the end of chapter 46. Welcome in. Hope you're doing well. Sorry for the background noise. We got motorcycle day on Sundays, I guess. We're having some beautiful red oolong tea that was given to me by my boss's boss, the CEO of my company. She went to Taiwan for a business trip and asked me what I wanted, which I thought was like so sweet. She just knows I'm a tea fan, and that is a tea place. And so she brought back this, I think pretty high-end red oolong tea. Oh, you can barely hear any background noise. I'm so glad. It really distracts me. And so if you hear me sort of stop talking briefly or anything, it's because, I feel like I can't be heard, but I'm glad that that's not actually the case. So here's some strange snacks I'm having today that actually go really well with this tea. This is a sweet potato stick. It's nothing but a steamed sweet potato, no sugar, salt, or anything. And I've had these for quite a while. They're in individual packets, and each packet is basically, the amount of one potato. It just happens to go amazingly well with this tea. And then I also have some honey roasted peanuts. So I'll take a quick little snack break, and then we'll dive back in. Okay, we'll put tiny fork aside. And that tea goes amazingly well with stuff like sweet potato, or actually goes really well with all my snacks. I can kind of tell that it's a higher end tea. Very, very clear. I mean, I'm using a filter on it, but I really don't need to. Like, there's like nothing on this filter. I take it back. There is a little something, but it's just like a piece of fuzz that had nothing to do with the tea. This tea's incredibly clean. It was a competition grade tea. So it does look like they cleaned it up very, very well. Okay, great. Throat all lubricated again, ready to move on. Chapter 47. For the little while of the Christmas holidays, it had been almost like old times in the Nolan family. But after New Year's, things reverted to the new routine which had grown on them since Johnny's death. There were no more piano lessons, for one thing. Francie hadn't practiced in months. Neely did his piano playing evenings in the neighborhood ice cream saloons. He had been expert at ragtime and was becoming even more expert at jazz. He could make a piano talk, so people said, and he was very popular. He played for free sodas. Sometimes Sheafly gave him $1 on a Saturday night for playing the whole evening. Francie didn't like it and spoke to her mother about it. "I wouldn't let him, Mama," she said. "But where's the harm in it? You don't want him to get into the habit of playing for free refreshments like..." She hesitated. Katie picked up the sentence. "Like your father? No, he'd never be like him. Your father never sang the songs he loved, like Annie Laurie or The Last Rose of Summer. He sang what the people wanted. Sweet Adeline and Down by the Old Mill Stream. Neely's different. He'll always play what he likes and not care 2 cents whether anyone else likes it." "You're saying then that Papa was only an entertainer and that Neely is an artist?" "Well, yes," admitted Katie defiantly. "I think that's carrying mother love a little too far." Katie frowned and Francie dropped the subject. "Very cool. Nice of them to share it with you." "Oh, yeah. I thought that was really sweet, too." They had stopped reading the Bible and Shakespeare since Neely started high school. He reported that they were studying Julius Caesar, and the principal read from the Bible each assembly period, and that was enough for Neely. Francie begged off reading at night because her eyes were tired from reading all day. Katie did not insist, feeling that they were now old enough to read or not, just as they wished. Francie's evenings were lonely. The Nolans were together only at the supper hour when even Laurie sat up to the table in her high chair. After supper, Neely went out, either to be with his gang or to play at some ice cream saloon. Mama read the paper, and then she and Laurie went to bed at 8 o'clock. Katie was still getting up at 5 in order to have most of her cleaning done while Francie and Neely were in the flat with the baby. Francie seldom went to the movies because they jumped around so and hurt her eyes. There were no shows to go to. Most of the stock companies had gone out of existence. Besides, she had seen Barrymore in Galsworthy's Justice on Broadway, and she was spoiled for stock companies after that. That past fall, she had seen a movie she liked, War Brides with Nazimova. She had hoped to see it again, but read in the papers that, because of the imminence of war, the film had been banned. She had a wonderful memory of journeying to a strange part of Brooklyn to see the great Sarah Bernhardt in a one-act play in a Keith vaudeville house. The great actress was past 70, but looked half that age from the stage. Francie couldn't understand the French, but she gathered that the play was written around the actress's amputated leg. Bernhardt played the part of a French soldier who had lost his leg in the war. Francie caught the word Boche from time to time. Francie would never forget the flaming red hair and the golden voice of Bernhardt. She treasured the program in her scrapbook. But those had just been 3 evenings out of months and months of evenings. Spring came early that year, and the sweet, warm nights made her restless. She walked up and down the streets and through the park, and wherever she went, she saw a boy and a girl together, walking arm in arm, sitting on a park bench with their arms around each other, standing closely and in silence in a vestibule. Everyone in the world but Francie had a sweetheart or a friend. She seemed to be the only lonely one in Brooklyn. March 1917. All the neighborhood could think or talk about was the inevitability of war. A widow living in the flats had an only son. She was afraid he'd have to go and would be killed. She bought him a cornet and made him take lessons, figuring he'd be put in an army band and played at parades and reviews only and be kept away from the front. People in the house were tormented almost to death by his incessant fumbling cornet practice. One harassed man, made crafty by desperation, told the mother that he had inside information that the military bands led the soldiers into action and invariably were the first ones killed. The terrified mother pawned the cornet immediately and destroyed the pawn ticket. There was no more dreadful practicing. Each night at supper, Katie asked Francie, "Has the war started yet?" "Not yet, but any day now." "Well, I wish it would hurry up and start." "Do you want war?" "No, I don't, but if it has to be, the sooner the better. The sooner it starts, the quicker it will end." Then Sissy created such a sensation that the war was pushed into the background temporarily. Sissy, who was done with her wild past, and who should have been settling down into the calm that precedes satisfied middle age, threw the family into a turmoil by falling madly in love with the John to whom she had been married for more than 5 years. Not only that, but she got herself widowed, divorced, married, and pregnant, all in 10 days' time. Oh, that's Sissy, all right. The Standard Union, Williamsburg's favorite newspaper, was delivered as usual one afternoon to Francie's desk at closing time. As usual, she took it home so that Katie could read it after supper. Francie would bring it back to the office the next morning and read and mark it. Since Francie never read newspapers outside of office hours, she had no way of knowing what was in that particular issue. After supper, Katie sat by the window to look through the paper. An instant after turning the third page, she exploded her "oh my" of utter astonishment. Francie and Neely ran to look over her shoulder. Katie pointed to a heading: "Hero Fireman Loses Life in Wallabout Market Blaze." Underneath in small type was a subheading: "Had planned to retire on pension next month." Reading the item, Francie discovered that the heroic fireman had been Sissy's first husband. There was a picture of Sissy taken 20 years ago. Sissy with a towering, crimped pompadour and huge leg of mutton sleeves. Sissy, 16 years old. There was a caption under Sissy's picture: "Widow of heroic firefighter." "Oh my," repeated Katie. "Then he never married again. He must have kept Sissy's picture all that time, and when he died, some men must have gone through his stuff and found Sissy. I've got to go over there right away." Katie took off her apron and went to get her hat, explaining, "Sissy's John reads the papers. She told him she was divorced. Now that he knows the truth, he'll kill her. At least throw her out," she amended. "She'll have no place to go with the baby and mother." "He seems like a nice man," said Francie. "I don't think he'd do that." "We don't know what all he won't do. We don't know anything about him. He's a stranger in the family and always has been. Pray God I don't get there too late." Francie insisted on going along, and Neely agreed to stay home with the baby on condition that he be told every single thing that happened. When they got to Sissy's house, they found her rosy with excitement. Grandma Mary Romilly had taken the baby and retired to the front room, where she sat in the dark and prayed for everything to come out all right. Sissy's John gave them his version of the story. "I'm away and working in the shop, see? These here men come to the house and say to Sissy, 'Your husband's just been killed, see?' Sissy thinks they mean me." He turned on Sissy suddenly. "Did you cry?" "You could hear me on the next block," she assured him. He seemed gratified. They ask Sissy what should they do with the body. Sissy asks, "Is there any insurance, see?" Well, it turns out there is, for $500, paid up 10 years ago and still made out in Sissy's name. So what does Sissy go to work and do? She tells them to lay him out in Specht's funeral parlor, see? A $500 funeral she orders. "I had to make the arrangements," apologized Sissy. "I'm his only living relation." "And that's not all," he went on. "Now they're going to come around and give Sissy a pension." "I won't stand for it," he roared suddenly. "When I marry her," he went on more calmly, "she tells me she's a divorced woman. Now it turns out she's not." "But there's no divorce in the Catholic Church," insisted Sissy. "You wasn't married in the Catholic Church." "I know, so I never considered I was married and didn't think I had to get a divorce." He threw his hands up in the air and moaned, "I give up." It was the same cry of futile despair he had uttered when Sissy had insisted that she had given birth to the baby. "I marry her in good faith, see? And what does she do?" he asked rhetorically. "She turns right around and makes us live in adultery." "Don't say that," said Sissy sharply. "We're not living in adultery. We're living in bigamy. And it's got to stop right now, see? You're widowed from the first one, and you're going to get a divorce from the second, and then you're going to marry me again, see?" "Yes, John," she said meekly. "And my name ain't John," he roared. "It's Steve, Steve, Steve." With each repetition of his name, he pounded on the table so hard that the blue glass sugar bowl with the spoons hanging around its rim clattered up and down. He pushed a finger into Francie's face. "And you, from now on I'm Uncle Steve, see?" Francie stared at the transformed man in dumb amazement. "Well, what do you say?" Hello, Uncle Steve." "That's more like it," he was mollified. He took his hat from a nail behind the door and jammed it on his head. "Where are you going, John? Steve?" asked Katie, worried. "Listen, when I was a kid, my old man always went out and got ice cream when company came in his house. Well, this is my house, see? And I got company, so I'm going out and get a quart of strawberry ice cream, see?" He went. "Isn't he wonderful?" sighed Sissy. "A woman could fall in love with a person like that." "Looks like the Romillys have a man in the family at last," commented Katie dryly. I love this. Katie went into the dark front room. By the light of the street lamp, she saw her grandmother sitting at the window with Sissy's sleeping baby in her lap and amber rosary beads dangling from her trembling fingers. "You can stop praying now, Grandma," she said. "Everything's all right. He went out for ice cream, see?" "Glory be to the Father, and to the Son, and to the Holy Ghost," praised Mary Romilly. In Sissy's name, Steve wrote to her second husband at his last known address and put "please forward" on the envelope. Sissy asked him to consent to a divorce so that she might remarry. A week later, a fat letter came from Wisconsin. Sissy's second husband informed her that he had obtained a Wisconsin divorce 7 years ago, had promptly remarried, settled down in Wisconsin where he had a good job, and was the father of 3 children. He was very happy, he wrote, and in belligerently underlined words threatened that he intended to stay that way. He enclosed an old press clipping to prove that she had been legally informed of the divorce action by publication. He enclosed a photostatic copy of the decree, grounds, desertion, and a snapshot of 3 bouncing children. Sissy was so happy at being divorced so quickly that she sent him a silver-plated pickle dish as a belated wedding present. She felt that she had to send a letter of congratulation also. Steve refused to write it for her, so she asked Francie to do it. "Write that I hope he'll be very happy," dictated Sissy. "But Aunt Sissy, he's been married 7 years, and it's settled by now whether he's happy or not." "When you first hear that someone's married, it's polite to wish them happiness. Write it down." "All right," she wrote it down. "What else?" "Write something about his children, how cute they are, or something like..." The word stuck in her throat. She knew he had sent the picture to prove that Sissy's stillborn children had not been his fault. That hurt Sissy. "Write that I'm the mother of a beautiful, healthy baby girl," and put a line under healthy. "But Steve's letter said you were only planning to get married. This man might think you funny that you got a baby so soon." "Write it like I said," ordered Sissy, "and write that I expect another baby to be born next week." "Sissy, you don't really." "Of course not, but write it down anyhow." Francie wrote that down. "Anything else?" "Say thanks for the divorce paper, then say I got my own divorce a year before he got it. Only I forgot," she concluded lamely. "But that's a lie." "I did get the divorce before he did. I got it in my mind." All right, surrendered Francie. "Write that I'm very happy and intend to stay that way, and put a line under those words like he did." "Gosh, Sissy, must you have the last word?" "Yes, just like your mother has to have it, and Evie, and you too." Francie made no more objections. Steve got a license and married Sissy all over again. This time, a Methodist minister performed the ceremony. It was Sissy's first marriage by the church, and at last she believed that she was truly married until death did the parting. Steve was very happy. He loved Sissy and had always been afraid of losing her. She had left her other husbands casually and with no regrets. He had been afraid that she'd leave him too, and take with her the baby whom he had grown to love dearly. He knew that Sissy believed in the church, any church, Catholic or Protestant, that she'd never walk out on a church marriage. For the first time in their relationship, he felt happy, secure, and masterful, and Sissy discovered that she was madly in love with him. Oh, that's so sweet. Sissy came over one evening after Katie had gone to bed. She told her not to get up, that she'd sit in the bedroom and talk to her. Francie was sitting at the kitchen table pasting poems and old notebooks. She kept a razor blade at the office and cut out poems and stories she liked for her scrapbooks. She had a series of them. One was labeled The Nolan Book of Classical Poems. Another, The Nolan Volume of Contemporary Poetry. A third was The Book of Annie Laurie, in which Francie was collecting nursery rhymes and animal stories to be read to Laurie when she was old enough to understand. The voices coming from the dark bedroom made a soothing rhythm. Francie listened as she passed. Sissy was saying, "Steve, so fine and decent, and when I realized it, I hated myself on account of the others. Outside of my husband's, I mean." "You didn't tell him about the others?" asked Katie apprehensively. "Do I look like a fool? But I wish with all my heart that he had been the first and only one." "Woman talks that way," said Katie. "It means she's going into the change of life." "How do you make that out?" "If she never had any lovers, she kicks herself around when the change comes, thinking of all the fun she could have had, didn't have, and now can't have. If she had had a lot of lovers, she argues herself into believing that she did wrong and she's sorry now. She carries on that way because she knows that soon all her womanness will be lost. And if she makes believe being with a man was never any good in the first place, she can get comfort out of her change. I'm not going into any change of life, said Sissy indignantly. In the first place, I'm too young, and in the second place, I wouldn't stand for it. It has to come to all of us someday, sighed Katie. There was terror in Sissy's voice. Not to be able to have children anymore. To be half a woman. Get fat, have hair grow on your chin. I'll kill myself first, she cried passionately. Anyhow, she added complacently, I'm nowhere near the change because I'm that way again. There was a rustle from the dark bedroom. Francie could visualize her mother raising herself on her elbow. No, Sissy, no, you can't go through that again. 10 times it's happened. 10 children stillborn. And it will be harder this time because you're going for 37. That's not too old to have a baby. No, but it's too old to get over another disappointment easily. You needn't worry, Katie. This child will live. You've said that each time. This time I'm sure because I feel that God is on my side, she said with quiet assurance. After a while, she said, I told Steve how I got little Sissy. What did he say? He knew all the while that I hadn't given birth to her, but the way I claimed I had got him mixed up. He said it didn't matter as long as I didn't have her by another man, and that since we had her from birth almost, he really feels that she's his baby. It's funny how the baby looks like him. She has his dark eyes and the same round chin and the same small ears close to her head like him. She got those dark eyes from Lucia, and a million people in the world have round chins and small ears, but if it makes Steve happy to think the baby looks like him, that's fine. There was a long silence before Katie spoke again. Sissy, did you ever get any idea from that Italian family as to who the father was? No. Sissy too waited a long time before she continued. You know who told me about the girl being in trouble and where she lived and all? Who? Steve. Oh my. Both were quiet for a long time. Then Katie said, Of course that was accidental. Of course, agreed Sissy. One of the fellows in his shop told him, he said, a fellow who lived on Lucia's block. Of course, Katie repeated. You know, funny things happen here in Brooklyn that have no meaning at all. Like, sometimes I'm walking on the street and I think of someone I haven't seen maybe in 5 years and I turn a corner and there's that person walking toward me. I know, answered Sissy. Sometimes I'm doing something that I never did before in my life and all of a sudden I have the feeling that I did that same thing before, maybe in another life. Her voice died away. After a while, she said, Steve always said he'd never take another man's child. All men say that. Life's funny, Katie went on. A couple of accidental things come together and a person could make a lot out of them. It was just an accident that you got to know about that girl. That same fellow must have told a dozen men in the shop. Steve just mentioned it to you accidentally. It was just by accident that you got in with that family and just accidental that the baby has a round instead of a square chin. It's even less than accidental. Katie stopped to search for a word. Francie in the kitchen had become so interested that she forgot that she wasn't supposed to be listening. When she knew her mother was groping for a word, she supplied it unthinkingly. Do you mean coincidental, Mama? She called out. A shocked silence came from the bedroom. Then the conversation was resumed, but this time in whispers. Oh my gosh. Let's take a little break here for some hot tea. It's been so long since I read this book, I completely forgot about that part. That's a little spicy right there. That's interesting. Okay. Oh man, this tea is so delicious. Any temperature, but I'm going to give the cold tea to the tea pets over here, who I know you can barely see. They're behind my little profile art over here. And we're having quite a beepy song from Johnny Bailey. Now there's like some chocolatey notes coming out in this tea. Wow, that's great. Kind of, fruity, but also, I'm not a big chocolate connoisseur. Some of you guys probably have enjoyed like fruity notes in your chocolate. And it could also be being brought out by like the sweet potatoes that I'm eating along with or something, but Yeah, it's just great. It tastes like, yeah, kind of like a dark chocolate. Oh, so delicious. Here, I'll show you what the leaves look like now before I pour more hot water. I just fluffed them a little bit because they really expanded and they were packed pretty tight down in the bottom of the pot there. And so once I kind of fluffed them a bit to release them more and let the water get in between, it's pretty much filling up 80% of the pot now. If anyone's wondering, I'm using about 205 degree water, which isn't, quite boiling. If I wanted to make the experience a little smoother, I could use slightly cooler water. It's really not very astringent though, and there's like no bitterness whatsoever. But what I am going to do is just pour it off quickly. That's the whole essence of gong fu tea, anyway, gong fu cha, is a large amount of leaves, like you saw, less water, and a lot less time. So even just brewing it for whatever that was, 15 seconds or so, we've still got a very nice I'll show you. What's been caught on the strainer here is not tea particles so much as tea, the trichomes, the little fuzzy bits on the buds part of the tea, which, so I almost, if I didn't strain it, the tea would even be a little bit more thicker in texture, maybe a tiny bit less clear. You can, if you look at the surface here, you can actually see little things floating on the top, and those are the little bits of tea hairs that are on the leaves. Okay, sip. Or I should say slurp. Always fun to spam some cute emotes in the chat there. Only 7% steep, that's definitely not true. Let's try it again. 68% is probably much closer to the actual feel here. Oh, this senbei cracker is getting a little sticky, being out in the Hawaii humidity. Still heckin' crunchy though. Okay. I'm just going to take a little moment to enjoy that. Okay. Enjoy the tea while it's hot. Slightly less red this time around. The first infusion was like shockingly red, really. Now it's kind of more of an amber. Still reddish though, for sure. It's a red oolong. Whoops. Some tea on my runner. Let's cut another piece of cake. I did have a small lunch, but it's been a while, and it wasn't a very big lunch. Cut another piece of this panettone here. There we go. Okay. And we'll have a little bit of mushy strawberry. These are mushy because I froze them myself when they were fresh. You know, brought home too many from Costco or something like that, most likely. Picked them over immediately. What I tend to do, you know, if I buy too much produce, especially berries, pick them over immediately. Take any that have little, you know, little soft spots or blemishes or whatever, and trim those up, wash them, and freeze them right away. And then I keep the ones that have no, they're perfectly intact, and I keep those and eat those fresh because they're going to last longer, right? So here's my limoncello panettone with a strawberry piece. Oh, my kettle's shutting off. Actually, I think I might want to take a break. Let's do one more chapter, I guess, and then I'll take an actual break in the stream. And then at that time, I'll refill my water and stuff. Yeah, so the strawberries are just mushy because they were frozen and thawed. It's a natural thing. Okay, just turning that back around. I hope you all are having a good new year. I don't tend to make New Year's resolutions, so I can't really tell you what mine are, but I am definitely working hard on my project of, basically getting ready for retirement. I stayed up super late last night, putting together a spreadsheet, creating a spreadsheet of our monthly expenses and yearly expenses, and looking at everything we spend. Which, kind of like, why didn't I do that years ago? But, until something really moves you and you want to start looking at it, like a lot of people don't do that. As long as you feel like you're getting by okay, you don't feel like you have any reason to, I think. So yeah, I think I was up till like 1 o'clock. I think I was probably up till 12:30 a.m. putting that together. And now Mr. Oolong is filling in his part of it. The things that he pays for that I don't actually know how much they cost, such as auto insurance. He pays for that. What else does he pay for? Our internet service. So the things that are billed directly to him. And then I guess he's got a lot of recurring subscriptions that I don't even know about. I mean, Netflix is one thing, but apparently there's others. Some that he says he doesn't even remember. So this is just a great time to look at stuff like that. What can we cut out? Of money that we're spending that we're not even aware of, right? I'm pretty aware of everything I spend, but I guess he's not so much. And even if there's something that you just pay on a yearly basis or a couple times a year, like an insurance bill or something, and then you look at how much it is per month, because we're trying to look at our monthly expenses. It can be kind of, shocking. So I know I'm certainly shocked at the amount that I pay for some things. So, so it's a great exercise, but nobody likes doing it. Okay, let's move on to chapter 48. And then after this chapter, I'll take an actual break. Yes. Chapter 48. A newspaper lay on Francie's desk. It was an extra and had come directly from the presses. The ink was still damp on its headline. The paper had been there 5 minutes, and as yet she had not picked up her pencil to mark it. She stared at the date. April 6, 1917. The one-word headline was 6 inches high. The 3 letters were smudged at the edges, and the word war seemed to waver. Francie had a vision. 50 years from now, she'd be telling her grandchildren how she had come to the office, sat at her reader's desk, and in the routine of work had read that war had been declared. She knew from listening to her grandmother that old age was made up of such remembrances of youth. But she didn't want to recall things. She wanted to live things, or as a compromise, relive rather than reminisce. She decided to fix this time in her life exactly the way it was at this instant. Perhaps that way she could hold on to it as a living thing and not have it become something called a memory. She brought her eyes close to the surface of her desk and examined the patterned grain of the wood. She ran her fingers along the groove where her pencils rested, fixing the feel of the groove in her mind. Using a razor blade, she nicked the next dot on one of her pencils and unraveled the paper. She held the raveling in her palm, touched it with her forefinger, and noted it spiraling. She dropped it into the metal wastebasket, counting the seconds it took to fall. She listened intently so as to not miss its almost noiseless thud as it hit the bottom. She pressed her fingertips to the damp headline, examined her inked fingertips, then made fingerprints on a sheet of white paper. Not caring about clients who might be mentioned on pages 1 and 2, she detached the front sheet of the newspaper and folded the sheet into a careful oblong, watching the creases come under her thumb. She inserted it into one of the strong manila envelopes that the bureau used to mail clippings in. Francie heard, as if for the first time, the sound the desk drawer made when she opened it to get her purse. She noted the device of the purse's catch, the sound of its click. She felt the leather, memorized its smell, and studied the whorlings of the black moire silk lining. She read the dates on the coins in her change purse. There was a new 1917 penny, which she put in the envelope. She uncapped her lipstick and made a line with it under her fingerprints. The clear red color, the texture, and the scent of it pleased her. She examined in turn the powder in her compact, the ridges on her nail file, the way her comb was inflexible, and the threads of her handkerchief. There was a worn clipping in the purse, a poem she had torn out of an Oklahoma newspaper. It had been written by a poet who had lived in Brooklyn, gone to the Brooklyn public schools, and as a young man had edited the Brooklyn Eagle. She reread it for the 20th time, handling each word in her mind. I am of old and young, of the foolish as much as the wise, regardless of others, ever regardful of others, maternal as well as paternal, a child as well as a man, stuffed with the stuff that is coarse and stuffed with the stuff that is fine. The tattered poem went into the envelope. In the mirror of her compact, she looked at the way her hair was braided, how the braids wound around her head. She noticed how her straight black eyelashes were uneven in length. Then her shoes were inspected. She ran her hand down her stocking and for the first time noticed that the silk felt rough instead of smooth. The fabric of her dress was made of tiny cords. She turned back the hem and noticed that the narrow lace edge of her slip was diamond-shaped in design. If I can fix every detail of this time in my mind, I can keep this moment always, she thought. Using the razor blade, she clipped a lock of her hair, wrapped it in the square of paper on which were the fingerprints and lipstick mark, folded it, placed it in the envelope, and sealed the envelope. On the outside, she wrote, Francie Nolan, age 15 years and 4 months, April 6, 1917. She thought, if I open this envelope 50 years from now, I will be again as I am now, and there will be no being old for me. There's a long, long time yet before 50 years. Millions of hours of time. But 1 hour has gone already since I sat here. 1 hour less to live. 1 hour gone away from all the hours of my life. Dear God, she prayed, let me be something every minute of every hour of my life. Let me be gay, let me be sad. Let me be cold, let me be warm. Let me be hungry, have too much to eat. Let me be ragged or well-dressed. Let me be sincere, be deceitful. Let me be truthful. Let me be a liar. Let me be honorable, and let me sin. Only let me be something every blessed minute. And when I sleep, let me dream all the time so that not one little piece of living is ever lost. The delivery boy came by and slapped another city paper on her desk. This one had a 2-word headline, War Declared. The floor seemed to swerve up, colors flashed before her eyes, and she put her head down on the ink-damp paper and wept quietly. One of the older readers returning from the washroom paused by Francie's desk. She noticed the headline in The Weeping Girl. She thought she understood. Oh, the war, she sighed. You have a sweetheart or a brother, I presume, she asked in her stilted, readerish way. Yes, I have a brother, Francie answered truthfully enough. My sympathies, Miss Nolan. The reader went back to her desk. I'm drunk again, thought Francie, and this time on a newspaper headline. And this is a bad one. I've got a crying jag. The war touched the model press clipping bureau with its mailed finger and made it wither away. First, the client who was the backbone of the business, the man who paid out thousands a year for clippings on the Panama Canal and such, came in the day after the declaration of war and said that since his address would be uncertain for a while, he'd call in person each day for his clippings. A few days later, two slow-moving men with heavy feet came in to see the boss. One of them pushed his palm under the boss's nose, and what he saw in that palm made the boss turn pale. He got a thick stack of clippings from the file box of the most important client. The heavy-footed ones looked them over and returned them to the boss, who put them in an envelope and put the envelope in his desk. The two men went into the boss's lavatory, leaving the door ajar. They waited in there all day. At noon, they sent the errand boy out for a bag of sandwiches and a carton of coffee, and they ate their lunch in the lavatory. It's a sting, guys. It's a sting. On the number one client. The Panama Canal client came in at 4:30. In slow motion, the boss handed him the fat envelope. Just as the client put it in his inner coat pocket, the heavy one strolled out of the lavatory. One of them touched the client on the shoulder. He sighed, took the envelope out of his pocket, and surrendered it. The second heavy one touched him on the shoulder. The client clicked his heels together, bowed stiffly, and walked out between the two men. The boss went home with an acute attack of dyspepsia. That evening, Francie told Mama and Neely how a German spy had been caught right in the office. The next day, a brisk-looking man came in with a briefcase. The boss had to answer a lot of questions, and the brisk man wrote down the answers in spaces provided on a printed form. Then came the sad part. The boss had to make out a check for nearly $400, the balance due on the involuntarily canceled account. After the brisk man left, the boss rushed out to borrow money to make the check good. After that, everything went to pieces. The boss was afraid to take in new accounts, no matter how innocent they seemed. The theatrical season was running out, and actor accounts fell off. The deluge of spring published books, which brought in hundreds of seasonal $5 author clients and dozens of $100 publisher clients, had not been a deluge but a mere trickle. Houses were holding off important publications until things settled down a bit. Many research workers canceled their accounts in expectation of being called up in the draft. Even if business had been normal, the Bureau couldn't have handled it because the workers began to go. The government, anticipating a man shortage, threw open civil service examinations for women workers in the big 34th Street post office. Many of the readers took and passed the examination and were called to work immediately. The manual workers, the club, left almost in a body to work in war projects plants. They not only tripled their earnings, but they received much praise for their unselfish patriotism. The boss's wife came back to read, and he fired all the remaining readers except Francie. The huge loft echoed with emptiness as the three of them tried to carry on the business alone. Francie and the wife read, filed, and attended to the office work. The boss slashed impotently at newspapers, printed blurry slips, and pasted items askew. Oh, hey, thank you for that follow, Kyle Thriller. I wonder why the, hang on just a second, we gotta take care of this. I wonder why that, alert didn't trigger. This is what's supposed to happen. Is it not working right now? That's for you. It says my name. But thank you, Kyle Thriller. Appreciate it so much. Okay. In the middle of June, he gave up. He made arrangements for the sale of his office equipment, broke his lease, and had settled the matter of refunds to clients very simply by saying, "Let 'em sue me." Francie phoned the only other clipping bureau she knew of in New York and asked whether they needed a reader. She was told that they never hired new readers. "We treat our readers right," said an argumentative voice, "and never have to make replacements." Francie thought that was very nice, said so, and hung up. She spent her last morning at the bureau marking help wanted ads. She skipped the office jobs knowing she'd have to start as a file clerk again. You didn't stand a chance in an office unless you were a stenographer and typist. Anyhow, she preferred factory work. She liked factory people better, and she liked keeping her mind free while she worked with her hands. But of course, Mama wouldn't let her work in a factory again. She found an ad that seemed a happy combination of factory and office, operating a machine in office surroundings. A communications corporation offered to teach girls teletype machine operating and to pay them $12.50 a week while they were learning. The hours were 5 p.m. to 1 a.m. At least that would give her something to do with her evenings, if she got the job. When she went to say goodbye to the boss, he told her that he'd have to owe her the last week's salary. He had her address, he said, and would send it. Francie said goodbye to the boss, to his wife, and to her final week's pay. The Communications Corporation had a skyscraper office overlooking the East River in downtown New York. Isn't that interesting? They had skyscrapers in 1917. I didn't realize that. Along with a dozen other girls, Francie filled out an application after presenting a fervent letter of recommendation from her ex-boss. She took an aptitude test in which she answered questions which seemed silly. Which weighs the most, a pound of lead or a pound of feathers, was an example. Evidently, she passed the test, for she was given a number, a locker key for which she had to pay a quarter deposit, and told to report the next day at 5 o'clock. It wasn't quite 4 when Francie got home. Katie was cleaning in their house, and she looked upset when she saw Francie come up the stairs. "Don't look so worried, Mama. I'm not sick or anything." "Oh," said Katie, relieved. "For a moment I thought you had lost your job." "I have. Oh, my. And I won't get my last week's pay either, but I got another job. Start tomorrow. 12.5 a week. I'll get a raise in time, I expect." Katie started to ask questions. "Mama, I'm tired. Mama, I don't want to talk. We'll talk about it tomorrow. And I don't want supper. I just want to go to bed." She went upstairs. Katie sat on the steps and started to worry. Since war started, prices of food and everything else had skyrocketed. In the past month, Katie had not been able to add to Francie's bank account. The $10 a week hadn't been enough. Lori had to have a quart of fresh milk every day, and the milk modifier was expensive. Then there had to be orange juice, now with $12.50 a week. After Francie's expenses were taken out, there'd be less money. Soon it would be vacation. Neely could work during the summer, but what about the fall? Neely would return to high school. Francie had to get to high school that fall. How? She sat there and worried. Francie, after a brief glance at the sleeping baby, undressed and got into bed. She folded her hands under her head and stared at the gray patch which was the air shaft window. Here I am, she thought, 15 years old and a drifter. I've been working less than a year and I've had 3 jobs already. I used to think it would be fun to go from one job to the other, but now I'm scared. I've been fired from 2 jobs through no fault of my own. At each job, I worked as best I could. I gave everything I could give, and here I'm starting all over again somewhere else. Only now I'm frightened. This time when the new boss says jump once, I'll jump twice because I'll be afraid of losing the job. I'm scared because they're depending on me here for money. How did we ever get along before I worked? Well, there wasn't Lori then. Neely and I were smaller and could do with less, and of course Papa helped some. Well, goodbye college. Goodbye everything for that matter. She turned her face away from the gray light and closed her eyes. Francie sat at a typewriter in a big room. There was a metal roof fastened over the top of Francie's machine so that she couldn't see the keyboard. An enormous chart of the keyboard diagram was tacked up in front of the room. Francie consulted the chart and felt for the letters under the shield. That was the first day. On the second day, she was given a stack of old telegrams to copy. Her eyes went from the copy to the chart as her fingers groped for the letters. At the end of the second day, she had memorized the position of the letters on the machine and didn't have to consult the chart. A week later, they took the shield off. It made no difference now. Francie was a touch typist. An instructor explained the workings of the teletype machine. For a day, Francie practiced sending and receiving dummy messages. Then she was put on the New York-Cleveland wire. She thought it a wonderful miracle that she could sit at that machine and type and have the words come out hundreds of miles away on a piece of paper and on the roller of a machine in Cleveland, Ohio. No less miraculous was that a girl typing away in Cleveland made the hammers of Francie's machine pound out the words. It was easy work. Francie would send for an hour, then receive for an hour. There were two 15-minute rest periods in the work shift, and half an hour for, quote, lunch at 9 o'clock. Her pay had been increased to $15 a week when she went on a wire. All in all, it wasn't a bad job. The household adjusted itself to Francie's new schedule. She left home soon after 4 in the afternoon and got home a little before 2 in the morning. She pressed the bell button 3 times before she entered the hallway so that Mama could be on the alert and make sure that Francie wouldn't be attacked by someone lurking in the hallways. Francie slept mornings until 11 o'clock. Mama didn't have to get up so early because Francie was in the flat with Lori. She started work in her own house first. By the time she was ready for the other 2 houses, Francie was up and looking after Lori. Francie had to work on Sunday nights, but she had Wednesday night off. Francie liked the new arrangement. It took care of her lonely evenings, it helped Mama out, and gave Francie a few hours each day to sit in the park with Lori. The warm sun did both of them a lot of good. A plan took shape in Katie's mind, and she spoke to Francie about it. "Will they keep you on the night work?" she asked. "Will they? They're tickled to death. No other girl wants to work nights. That's why they push it off on the new girls." "I was thinking that maybe in the fall you could keep on working nights and go to high school in the daytime. I know it'll be hard, but it could be done somehow." "Mama, no matter what you say, I won't go to high school." "But you fought to go last year." "That was last year. That was the right time to go. Now it's too late." "It's not too late, and don't be stubborn." "But what in the world could I learn in high school now?" "Oh, I'm not conceited or anything, but after all, I've read 8 hours a day for almost a year, and I learned things. I've got my own ideas about history and government and geography and writing and poetry. I've read too much about people, what they do and how they live. I've read about crimes and about heroic things. Mama, I've read about everything. I couldn't sit still now in a classroom with a bunch of baby kids and listen to an old maid teacher drool away about this and that. I'd be jumping up and correcting her all the time. Or else I'd be good and swallow it all down, and then I'd hate myself for, well, eating mush instead of bread. So I will not go to high school, but I will go to college someday." "But you've got to go through high school before they'll let you in college." 4 years of high school. No, 5, because something would come up to delay me. Then 4 years of college. I'd be a dried up old maid of 25 before I was finished. Whether you like it or not, you'll get to be 25 in time, no matter what you do. You might as well be getting educated while you're going towards it. "Once and for all, Mama, I will not go to high school." "We'll see," said Katie as her jaw settled into a square line. Francie said nothing more, but the set of her jaw was like her mother's. However, the conversation gave Francie an idea. If Mama thought she could work evenings and go to high school in the day, why couldn't she go to college that way? She studied a newspaper ad. Brooklyn's oldest and most reputable college was advertising summer courses available for college students wishing to take advanced work or to make up or work off conditions. I'm trying to make sense of that sentence. Okay, Brooklyn's oldest and most reputable college was advertising summer courses available for college students wishing to take advanced work or to make up or work off conditions, and for high school students wishing to gain advanced college credits. Francie thought she might come under the last heading. She wasn't exactly a high school student, but she was eligible to be one. She sent for the catalog. From the catalog, she chose 3 courses with classes meeting in the afternoon. She'd be able to sleep as usual until 11, attend classes, and go straight to work from the college. She chose beginning French, elementary chemistry, and something called restoration drama. She figured up the tuition, a little over $60 with laboratory fees. She had $105 on her savings account. She went to Katie. "Mama, could I have $65 of the money you've been saving for me towards college?" "What for?" "College, of course." She was deliberately casual for the drama of it. She was rewarded by the way Mama's voice scaled up as she repeated after Francie. "College?" "Summer school college." But, sputtered Katie. "I know, no high school. But maybe I can get in if I tell them I don't want a diploma or any grades, that I just want the lessons." Katie got her green hat down from the closet shelf. Where are you going, Mama? To the bank for the money. Francie laughed at her mother's eagerness. It's after hours, the bank's closed, besides there's no hurry. Registration's a week off yet. The college was located in Brooklyn Heights, another strange section of great Brooklyn for Francie to explore. As she filled out the registration blank, her pen hovered over the question of previous education. There were 3 headings with blanks after them: elementary schools, high schools, and colleges. After a little thought, she crossed out the words and wrote in the space above them, privately educated. And when you come right down to it, that's no lie, she assured herself. To her utter relief and astonishment, she was not challenged in any way. The cashier took her money and gave her a receipt for her tuition. She was given a registration number, a pass to the library, a schedule of her classes, and a list of the textbooks she needed. She followed a crowd to the college bookshop further down the block. She consulted her list and ordered a beginning French and an elementary chemistry. New or secondhand? Asked the clerk. Why, I don't know. Which am I supposed to have? New, said the clerk. Someone touched her on the shoulder. She turned and saw a handsome, well-dressed boy. He said, Get secondhand. Serves the same purpose as new and half the price. Thank you. She turned to the clerk. Secondhand, she said firmly. She started to order the 2 books for the drama course. Again, the touch on her shoulder. Said the boy. Said the boy negatively. You can read them in the library before and after classes, and when you get cuts. Thank you again, she said. At any time, he answered and sauntered away. Her eyes followed him out of the store. Gosh, he's tall and good-looking, she thought. College is certainly wonderful. She sat in the L train on her way to the office, clutching the 2 textbooks. As the train grated over the tracks, its rhythm seemed to be college, college, college. Francie started to feel sick. She felt so sick that she had to get off at the next station, even though she knew she'd be late for work. She leaned against a penny weighing machine, wondering what was the matter with her. It couldn't have been anything she ate because she had forgotten to eat lunch. Then a thunderous thought came to her. My grandparents never knew how to read or write. Those who came before them couldn't read or write. My mother's sister can't read or write. My parents never even graduated from grade school. I never went to high school, but I, M. Francis K. Nolan, am now in college. Do you hear that, Francie? You're in college. Oh gosh, I feel sick. Great place to take a little break. All right, let's go on with chapter 49. Francie came away from her first chemistry lecture in a glow. In 1 hour, she had found out that everything was made up of atoms which were in continual motion. She grasped at the idea that nothing was ever lost or destroyed. Even if something was burned up or left to rot away, it did not disappear from the face of the earth. It changed into something else: gases, liquids, and powders. Everything, decided Francie after that first lecture, was vibrant with life, and there was no death in chemistry. She was puzzled as to why learned people didn't adopt chemistry as a religion. The drama of the Restoration, aside from the time-consuming reading required, was easy to manage after her home study of Shakespeare. She had no worries about that course, nor the chemistry course. But when it came to beginning French, she was lost. It wasn't really beginning French. The instructor, working on the knowledge that his students either had taken it before and flunked it, or had already had it in high school, sloughed over the preliminaries and got right down to translation. Francie, shaky enough regarding English grammar, spelling, and punctuation, didn't stand a chance with the French language. She'd never pass the course. All she could do was memorize vocabulary each day and try to hang on. She studied going back and forth on the L. She studied in her rest periods and ate her meals with a book propped up on the table before her. She typed out her assignments on one of the machines in the instruction room of the Communications Corporation. She was never late or absent, and she asked nothing more than to pass at least 2 of her courses. The boy who had befriended her in the bookstore became her guardian angel. His name was Ben Blake, and he was a most amazing fellow. He was a senior in a Maspeth high school. He was editor of the school magazine, president of his class, played halfback on the football team, and was an honors student. For the past 3 summers, he had been taking college courses. He would finish high school with more than 1 year of college courses. He would finish high school with more than 1 year of college work out of the way. In addition to his schoolwork, he put in his afternoons working for a law firm. He drew up briefs, served summonses, examined deeds and records, and searched out precedents. He was familiar with the state statutes and was completely capable of trying a case in court. Besides doing so well in school, he earned $25 a week. His firm wanted him to come into the office full-time after his graduation from high school, read law with them, and eventually take the bar exam. But Ben was contemptuous of non-college lawyers. He had a great Midwestern college picked out. He planned to complete work for an AB degree and then enter law school. At 19, his life was planned out in a straight, unswerving line. After passing the bar exam, he was all set to take over a country law practice. He believed that a young lawyer had more political opportunities in a small-town practice. He even had the practice picked out. He was to succeed a distant relative, an aged country lawyer who had a well-established practice. He was in constant touch with his future predecessor and received long weekly letters of guidance from him. Ben planned to take over this practice and await his turn to be a county prosecutor. By agreement, the lawyers in this small county rotated the office among them. That would be his start in politics. He'd work hard, get himself well known and trusted, and eventually be elected to the House of Representatives from his state. He'd serve faithfully and be reelected. Then he'd come back and work himself up to the governorship of his state. That was his plan. The amazing thing about the whole idea was that those who knew Ben Blake were sure that everything would come out the way he had planned it. In the meantime, in that summer of 1917, the object of his ambitions, a vast Midwestern state, lay dreaming beneath the hot prairie sun, lay dreaming among its great wheat fields and its unending orchards of winesap, Baldwin, and northern spy apples, lay dreaming, unaware that the man who planned to occupy its White House as its youngest governor was at the moment a boy in Brooklyn. That was Ben Blake. Well-dressed, gay, handsome, brilliant, sure of himself, well-liked by the boys, with all the girls crazy about him, and Francie Nolan tremulously in love with him. She saw him every day. His fountain pen flashed through her French assignments. He checked her chemistry work and cleared up obscurities in the restoration plays. He helped her plan for her next summer's courses and, obligingly enough, tried to plan out the rest of her life for her. As the end of summer came near, 2 things saddened Francie. Soon she wouldn't be seeing Ben every day, and she wasn't going to pass the French course. She took Ben into her confidence about the latter sadness. "Don't be silly," he told her briskly. "You paid for the course, you sat in class all summer, you're not a moron. You'll pass QED." "No," she said. She laughed. "I'll flunk PDQ." "We'll have to cram you for the final exam then. We'll need a whole day. Now where can we go?" "My house," suggested Francie timidly. "No, there'd be people around." He thought for a moment. "I know a good place. Meet me Sunday morning at 9, corner Gates and Broadway." He was waiting for her when she stepped off the trolley. She wondered where in the world he'd take her in that neighborhood. He took her to the stage door of a theater given over to Broadway shows on the first lap of the road. He got through the magic door merely by saying, "Morning, Pop," to the white-haired man sitting on a tilted chair in the sun beside the open door. Francie then discovered that this amazing boy was a Saturday night usher in this theater. Wow, he is busy. She had never been backstage before, and she was so excited that she almost ran a temperature. The stage seemed vast, and the roof of the theater house seemed lost, so far away it was. As she walked across the stage, she changed her stride and walked slowly and stiff-leggedly as she remembered Harold Clarence walking. When Ben spoke, she turned slowly with dramatic intensity and said in a throaty voice, "You," paused, then with meaning, "spoke?" "Want to see something?" he asked. He pulled the curtain and she saw the asbestos roll up like a giant's shade. He turned on the foots and she walked out on the apron and looked over the 1,000 dark, empty, waiting, raked seats. She tilted her head and threw her voice to the last row of the gallery. "Hello out there," she called, and her voice seemed amplified 100 times in the dark, waiting emptiness. Look, he asked good-naturedly, are you more interested in the theater or your French? Why, the theater, of course. It was true. Then and there she renounced all other ambitions and went back to her first love, the stage. Ben laughed as he cut off the foots. He brought down the curtain and placed 2 chairs facing each other. In some way, he had gotten hold of the examination papers for 5 years back. From them, he had made a master exam paper using the questions asked most frequently and those seldom asked. Most of the day, he drilled Francie in these questions and answers. Then he had her memorize a page from Moliere's Le Tartuffe and its English translation. He explained, "There'll be one question in the exam tomorrow that will be absolute Greek to you. Don't attempt to answer it. Do this. State frankly that you can't answer the question, but that you are offering in its stead an excerpt from Moliere with translation. Then write down what you've memorized and you'll get away with it." But suppose they ask for that exact passage in a regular question. They won't. I picked out a very obscure passage. Evidently, she got away with it, for she passed the examination in French. True, she passed with the lowest mark, but she consoled herself with the idea that passing was passing. She did very well on the chemistry and drama examinations. Acting on Ben's instructions, she came back for the transcript of her grades a week later and met him by arrangement. He took her to Heuler's for a chocolate soda. "How old are you, Francie?" he asked over the sodas. She calculated rapidly. She was 15 at home, 17 at work. Ben was 19. He'd never speak to her again if he knew she was only 15. He saw her hesitation and said, "Anything you say may be used against you." She took her courage into her 2 hands and quavered boldly, "I'm 15. She hung her head in shame. I like you, Francie. And I love you," she thought. "I like you as much as any girl I've ever known, but of course, I have no time for girls." "Not even for an hour, say on Sunday?" she ventured. "My few free hours belong to my mother. I'm all that she has." Francie had never heard of Mrs. Blake until that moment, but she hated her because she preempted those free hours, a few of which would have made Francie happy. "But I'll be thinking of you," he continued. "I'll write if I have a moment." He lived half an hour away from her. "But if you ever need me, not for any trivial reason, of course, drop me a line and I'll manage to see you." He gave her one of the firm's cards with his full name, Benjamin Franklin Blake, written in the corner. They parted outside of Heuler's, shaking hands warmly. "See you next summer," he called back as he walked away. Francie stood looking after him until he turned the corner. Next summer, it was only September, and next summer seemed a million years away. She had enjoyed the summer school so much that she wanted to matriculate in the same college that fall, but she had no way of raising the more than $300 required for tuition. In a morning spent in studying catalogs in the 42nd Street New York Library, she discovered a college for women in which tuition was free to residents of New York. Armed with her transcripts, she went over to register. She was told that she couldn't matriculate, lacking a high school education. She explained how she had been permitted to go to summer school. That was different. Their courses were given for credit only. No degree was offered in summer courses. She asked, couldn't she take courses now without expecting a degree? No. If she were past 25, she might be permitted to enter as a special student and take courses without being a candidate for a degree. Francie regretfully acknowledged that she was not yet past 25. There was an alternative, however. If she was able to pass the entrance or regents examinations, she would be permitted to enroll regardless of high school credits. Francie took the examinations and flunked everything but chemistry. "Oh well, I should have known," she told her mother. "If people could get into college that easy, no one would ever bother with high school. But don't you worry, Mama. I know what the entrance examinations are now, and I'll get the books and study, and take those examinations next year, and I'll pass next year. It can be done, and I'll do it. You'll see." Even if she had been able to enter college, it wouldn't have worked out because she was put on the day shift after all. She was now a fast and expert operator, and they needed her in the day when the traffic was heaviest. They assured her that she could go back on night work in the summer if she wished. She got her next raise. She was now earning $17.50 a week. Again, the lonely evenings. Francie roamed the Brooklyn streets in the lovely nights of fall and thought of Ben. If you ever need me, write and I'll manage to see you. Yes, she needed him, but she was sure he'd never come if she wrote, I'm lonely, please come and walk with me and talk to me. In his firm schedule of life, there was no heading labeled loneliness. The neighborhood seemed the same, yet it was different. Gold stars had appeared in some of the tenement windows. The boys still got together on the corner or in front of a penny candy store of an evening. But now, often as not, one of the boys would be in khaki. The boys stood around harmonizing. They sang A Shanty in Old Shantytown and When You Wore a Tulip, Dear Old Girl, I'm Sorry I Made You Cry, and other songs. Sometimes the soldier boy led them in war songs. Over There, Katie, and Rose of No Man's Land. But no matter what they sang, always they finished off with one of Brooklyn's own folk songs. Mother McCree, When Irish Eyes Are Smiling, Let Me Call You Sweetheart, or The Band Played On. And Francie walked past them in the evenings and wondered why all the songs sounded so sad. Okay, a little bit of tea between chapters. A little piece of sweet potato. These are so orange. They're just calling out to me over here. This is the steamed sweet potato snack. So good. I don't have any mandarins, but those also would be a really good wintry type snack to have with this tea. Okay, let's go on with chapter 50. Sissy expected her baby late in November. Katie and Evie went to a lot of trouble to avoid discussing it with Sissy. They were certain it would be another stillbirth, and they reasoned that the less said about it, the less Sissy would have to remember afterward. But Sissy did such a revolutionary thing that they had to talk about it. She announced that she was going to have a doctor when the baby came and that she was going to a hospital. Her mother and sisters were stunned. No Romilly woman had had a doctor at childbirth ever. It didn't seem right. You called in a midwife, a neighbor woman, or your mother, and you got through the business secretively and behind closed doors and kept the men out. Babies were women's business. As for hospitals, everyone knew you went there only to die. Sissy told them they were way behind the times, that midwives were things of the past. Besides, she informed them proudly, she had no say in the matter. Her Steve insisted on the doctor and the hospital. And that wasn't all. Sissy was going to have a Jewish doctor. Why, Sissy, why? Asked her shocked sisters. Because Jewish doctors are more sympathetic than Christian ones at a time like that. I've nothing against the Jews, began Katie, but look, just because Dr. Ehrenstein's people look at a star when they pray and our people look at a cross has nothing to do with whether he's a good doctor or not. But I think you'd want a doctor of your own faith around at a time of... Katie was going to say death, but checked herself in time. A birth. Oh, sugar, said Sissy contemptuously. Like should stick to like. You don't see Jews calling in Christian doctors, said Evie, thinking she had made a telling point. Why should they, countered Sissy, when they and everybody else knows that the Jewish doctors are smarter? The birth was the same as all of the others. Sissy had her usual easy time, made easier by the skill of the doctor. When the baby was delivered, she closed her eyes tightly. She was afraid to look at it. She had been so sure that this one would live. But now that the time had come, she felt in her heart that it wouldn't be so. She opened her eyes finally. The baby was lying on a nearby table. It was still and blue. She turned her head away. Again, she thought. Again and again and again. 11 times. Oh God, why couldn't you let me have just one? Just one out of the 11. In a few years, my time of childbearing will be over. For a woman to die at last, knowing that she has never given life. Oh God, why have you put your curse on me? Then she heard a word. She heard a word that she had never known. She heard the word oxygen. Quick, oxygen, she heard the doctor say. She watched him work over her baby. She saw a miracle that transcended the miracles of the saints her mother had told her about. She saw the dead blue change to a living white. She saw an apparently lifeless child draw a breath. For the first time, she heard the cry of a child she had born. Is it alive? She asked, afraid to believe. What else? The doctor shrugged his shoulders eloquently. You've got a fine boy as I have ever seen. You're sure he'll live? Why not? Again the shrug. Unless you let him fall out of a 3-story window. Sissy took his hands and covered them with kisses, and Dr. Aaron Ehrenstein was not embarrassed about her emotionalism the way a Gentile doctor would have been. She named the baby Stephen Aaron. I've never seen it to fail, said Katie. Let a childless woman adopt a baby, and bang, a year or two later she's sure to have one of her own. It's as if God recognized her good intentions at last. It's nice that Sissy has 2 to bring up, because it's no good to bring up one child alone. Little Sissy and Stevie are just 2 years apart, said Francie, almost like Neely and me. Yes, they'll be company for each other. Sissy's living son was the great wonder of the family until Uncle Willie Flitman gave them something else to talk about. Willie tried to enlist in the army and was turned down. Whereupon he threw up his job with the milk company, came home, announced that he was a failure, and went to bed. He wouldn't get up next morning or the morning after. He said he was going to stay in bed and never get up as long as he lived. All his life he had lived as a failure, and now he was going to die as a failure, and the sooner the better, he stated. Evie went for her sisters. Evie, Sissy, Katie, and Francie stood around the big brass bed in which the failure had ensconced himself. Willie took one look at the circle of strong-willed Romilly women and wailed, I'm a failure. He pulled up the blanket over his head. Evie turned her husband over to Sissy and Francie. Evie turned her husband over to Sissy, and Francie watched Sissy go to work on him. She put her arms around him and held the futile little fellow to her breast. Sissy convinced him that not all of the brave men were in trenches, that many a hero was risking his life daily for his country in a munitions factory. She talked and talked until Willie got so excited about helping to win the war that he jumped out of bed and made Aunt Evie scurry around getting him his pants and shoes. Steve was foreman now at a munitions factory on Morgan Avenue. He got Willie a good-paying job there with time and a half for overtime. It was a tradition in the Romilly family that the men keep for themselves any tips or overtime money that they earned. With his first check for overtime work, Willie bought himself a bass drum and a pair of cymbals. He spent all of his evenings, when he didn't have to work overtime, practicing on the drum and cymbals in the front room. Francie gave him a $1 harmonica for Christmas. He fastened it to a stick and attached the stick to his belt so he could play the harmonica like riding a bicycle with no hands. He tried to manipulate the guitar, harmonica, drums, and cymbals all at once. He was practicing to be a one-man band. And so he sat in the front room evenings. He blew into the harmonica, strummed the guitar, thumped the great drum, and clashed the brass cymbals. And he grieved because he was a failure. Oh, hey, Dead Chrome, how you doing? I'm going to see if I can give you a shout out. There's a shout out for our buddy. I hope I spell your name right. Dead. C-H-R. Yep. Yeah, hope you're doing well. We're on episode 6 out of 7. We're not going to finish the book today, but next week we definitely will. And we're having this wonderful tea that my CEO gave me. That she kindly bought specially for me in Taiwan. It was her idea, but I sent her a list of the types of tea I like, and she picked one. And it's fantastic. Okay. Chapter 51. When it got too cold to go walking, Francie enrolled in 2 evening classes at the settlement house, sewing and dancing. She learned to decode paper patterns and to run a sewing machine. In time, she hoped to be able to make her own clothes. She learned, quote, ballroom dancing, although neither she nor her partners ever expected to set foot in something called a ballroom. Sometimes her partner was one of the brilliantine-haired neighborhood sheiks who was a snappy dancer and made her watch her steps. Sometimes he was a little old boy of 14 in knee pants, and she made him watch his steps. She loved dancing and took to it instinctively, and that year began to draw to a close. What's that book you're studying, Francie? That's Neely's geometry book. What's geometry? Something you have to pass to get into college, Mama. Well, don't sit up too late. What news do you bring me of my mother and sisters? Katie asked the insurance collector. Well, for one thing, I just insured your sister's babies, Sarah and Stephen. But she's had them insured since birth, a nickel a week policy. This is a different policy, endowment. What does that mean? They don't have to die to collect. They get $1,000 each when they're 18. It's insurance to get them through college. Oh my, first a doctor and hospital to give birth, then college insurance? What's next? Any mail, Mama? Asked Francie as usual when she got home from work. No, just a card from Evie. What does she say? Nothing, except they've got to move again on account of Willie's drumming. Where are they moving now? Evie found a one-family house in Cypress Hills. I wonder whether that's in Brooklyn? It's out East New York way, where Brooklyn changes into Queens. It's around Crescent Street, the last stop on the Broadway L. I mean, it used to be the last stop until they extended the L to Jamaica. Not the country Jamaica, but Jamaica, Queens, you know? Mary Romilly lay in her narrow white bed. A crucifix stood out on the bare wall above her head. Her 3 daughters and Francie, her eldest granddaughter, stood by her bed. I am 85 now, and I feel that this is my last time of sickness. I wait for death with the courage I gain from living. I will not speak falsely and say to you, do not grieve for me when I go. I have loved my children and tried to be a good mother, and it is right that my children grieve for me. But let your grief be gentle and brief, and let resignation creep into it. Know that I shall be happy. I shall see face to face the great saints I have loved all my life. Francie showed the snapshots to a group of girls in the recreation room. This is Annie Laurie, my baby sister. She's only 18 months old, but she runs all over the place, and you ought to hear her talk. She's cute. This is my brother Cornelius. He's going to be a doctor. He's cute. This is my mother. She's cute and so young looking. And this is me on the roof. The roof's cute. I'm cute, said Francie with mock belligerence. We're all cute, the girls laughed. Our supervisor's cute, the old wagon. I hope she chokes. They all laughed and laughed. What are we all laughing at? Asked Francie. Nothing. They laughed harder. Send Francie. The last time I asked for sauerkraut, he chased me out of the store, complained Neely. You've got to ask for Liberty cabbage now, you dope, said Francie. Don't call each other names, chided Katie absent-mindedly. Did you know they changed Hamburg Avenue to Wilson Avenue? Asked Francie. War makes people do funny things, sighed Katie. You going to tell Mama? Asked Neely apprehensively. No, but you're too young to go out with that kind of a girl. They say she's wild, said Francie. Who wants a tame girl? I wouldn't care, only you don't know anything at all about, well, sex. I know more than you, anyhow. He put his hand on his hip and squealed in a lisping falsetto. Oh, Mama, will I have a baby if a man just kisses me? Will I, Mama? Will I? Neely, you listened that day. Sure, I was right outside in the hall and heard every word. Of all the low things. You listened too. Many's the times I caught you and Mama, Aunt Sissy or Aunt Evie were talking and you were supposed to be asleep in bed. That's different. I have to find out things. Check. Francie, it's 7 o'clock. Get up. What for? You've got to be at work at 8:30. Tell me something new, Mama. You're 16 years old today. Tell me something new. I've been 16 for 2 years now. You'll have to be 16 for another year then. I'll probably be 16 all my life. I wouldn't be surprised. I wasn't snooping, said Katie indignantly. I needed another nickel for the gas man, and I thought you wouldn't care. You would look in my pocketbook for change many a time. That's different, said Francie. Katie held a small violet box in her hand. There were scented, gold-tipped cigarettes in it. One was missing from the full box. Well, now you know the worst, said Francie. I smoked a Milo cigarette. They smell nice anyway, said Katie. Go ahead, Mama, give me the lecture and get it over with. With so many soldiers dying in France and all, the world's not going to fall apart if you smoke a cigarette once in a while. Gee, Mama, you take all the fun out of things, like not objecting to my black lace pants last year. Well, throw the cigarettes away. I'll do no such thing. I'll scatter them in my bureau drawer. They'll make my nightgown smell nice. I was thinking, said Katie, that instead of buying each other Christmas presents this year, that we put all the money together and buy a roasting chicken and a big cake from the bakery and a pound of good coffee and... We have enough money for food, protested Francie. We don't have to use our Christmas money. I mean to give to the Tinmore girls for Christmas. No one takes lessons from them now. People say they're behind the times. They don't have enough to eat, and Miss Lizzie's been so good to us. Well, all right, consented Francie, not very... Well, all right, consented Francie, not very enthusiastically. Gee, Neely kicked the table leg viciously. Don't worry, Neely laughed Francie. You'll get a present. I'll buy you fawn-colored spats this year. Oh, shut up. Don't say shut up to each other, chided Katie absent-mindedly. I want to ask your advice, Mama. There was this boy I met in summer school. He said he might write, but he never has. I want to know, would it look forward if I sent him a Christmas card? Forward? Nonsense. Send the card if you feel like it. I hate all those flirty-birdie games that women make up. Life's too short. If you ever find a man you love, don't waste time hanging your head and simpering. Go right up to him and say, I love you. How about getting married? That is, she added hastily with an apprehensive look at her daughter, when you're old enough to know your own mind. I'll send the card, decided Francie. Mama, we decided, Neely and I, that we'd like coffee instead of milk punch. All right, Katie put the brandy bottle back in the cupboard. And make the coffee very strong and hot, and fill the cups with half coffee and half hot milk, and we'll toast 1918 in Café au lait. S'il vous plaît, put in Neely. Oui, 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 said Mama. I know some French words, too. Katie held the coffee pot in one hand and the saucepan of hot milk in the other, and poured both into the cup simultaneously. I remember, she said, when there was no milk in the house. Your father would put a lump of butter in his coffee, if we had butter. He said that butter was cream in the first place and just as good in coffee. Papa. Okay, I'm going to take a pause here to make some fresh tea. Tea's getting a little cold. Oh, Sebastian, they'll make her nightgown smell like something, but I'm not sure if nice is the descriptor I'd use. Yeah, and what kind of cigarettes were those? They were violet. They were scented gold-tip cigarettes. A Milo cigarette. I'll have to Google that. I don't know what those smelled like. Depends on what they were scented, I suppose. Did they have clove cigarettes back then? I guess tobacco can smell kind of good if it's not burned, like a cigar, right? If you think that cigars smell good before they're... I think they smell pretty good before they're lit, you know. Cigar smoke I could 100% live without. Oh, wow, look at all the fuzz. Remember I was talking about the fuzz on the leaves? I don't know if you can see this. All this fuzz on the filter, on the leaf. I will put it in my hand and see if you can see a little better. There's some particles there, but the rest of it is just fuzz off the leaves. Which means they're, it's got a lot of buds in it, and they get fuzzy. The tea has fuzzy buds. That's a sign of quality, usually. I suppose menthol might smell nice. I used to sell cigarettes at Walgreens, but I never smoked. Same. Yeah, well, I never sold them either, but I think I smoked one pack of cigarettes when I was about, well, Francie's age, maybe about 16 or so, in high school. And that was it. It's a lot of fuzz. I don't know if it's pronounced Milo, probably. Milo cigarettes, particularly the Milo Violets variety, were marketed as having a delicate floral scent, often described as smelling like violets due to their intended appeal to women and their gold tip design, essentially a light, sweet, and slightly powdery aroma. Oh, hey, thanks for that, Texas. Quick on the Google Draw there. I am going to let this steep a little bit longer this time, because I don't remember. I never remember to count the infusions, but it's been a bunch. I have definitely put. I don't use scent really anymore anyway. Mr. Oolong is pretty much allergic to everything, but I have definitely put like scented soaps or whatever that someone gave me that I'm definitely not going to use on my body, but I've put them in drawers before with stuff. Here's our tea. I kind of want to get a pack as a thing to fidget with. Yeah. That's an interesting idea. Cigarette packs are the perfect size to move around in your hand, and the cigarettes themselves are fun to slide in and out of the package, but I'll never smoke. A deck of cards is about the same size and probably better to fidget with. Well, yeah, maybe. It's healthier. And it's got pictures on it, right? My senbei is still tasty, but it's getting slightly less crunchy. It's absorbing a little humidity from the room, so I think I might, from the weather. So I think I might munch it up now. I mean, you could also get a deck of something like oracle cards if you want, and then you can have pictures and shuffling. I find shuffling cards to be very satisfying. Either this kind of shuffle or this kind of shuffle, especially that one, right? That feels like really satisfying to do, if you don't mind bending your cards. I used to have a Zippo lighter I kept with me just so I could flick it. Yeah, I guess that clicking, that's pretty satisfying. It was a bit cringe when I was younger. We used to play so many card games. Yeah, I kind of grew up in my family. We played cards. My dad and I played so much cribbage. He taught me how to play cribbage, and I don't even remember now that much, but I was apparently quite good at it. So that has cards, and it has little pegs that you count with, that you like race them around a track. So that's kind of fun. So we're going to take a little crunch break here. You never learned cribbage? I actually have his cribbage board. Oh, I kept it when he passed away. I played gin rummy. My elderly neighbor taught me poker. Played a lot of solitaire varieties. You know what I've never played in my whole life is bridge. People get really into it. No idea how bridge works. Never played it. Poker, yeah, some. Blackjack, apparently I'm quite good at. I think counting the numbers kind of works well in my mind. I don't know if you guys remember that fundraiser I went to, that was about a year ago. A business contact invited me to a Las Vegas night that was a fundraiser for his wife's nonprofit that she worked at. And I ended up at the blackjack tables. But it wasn't real money. But if it had been real money, I would have won a lot of money. I would have won like $160 or something. They gave you fake money to play with. So that was really fun. It was just that it was it was so noisy in there. So they had like DJ music blasting. You couldn't really talk to anybody, so you had to like signal everything, So you had to signal, I want another card, which by the way is the same. It's basically the same, like knocking on the table like this is the same signal for thank you for the tea. Like, so if somebody's pouring tea and you're having a conversation like we are right now, and maybe someone else is talking, or you don't want to stop talking, whatever subject you're on, and you just want to say thank you for the tea, you do tap like this, which is kind of basically the same thing that when you're playing poker, that you do a little tap or a little pull or something like this, saying like, I want another card, please, give me another card, or stay, right? I don't want any more cards. Bridge, yeah. And so you can do that even if it's noisy in the room, was my point. And you don't have to shout at the dealer. Or you can nod, there's different things, but basically you just signal like that. I went to Las Vegas once with my family. I wish so bad I would have tried some card games or something. We just stayed in the hotel for like 11 days. Vegas just doesn't, I don't like gambling with real money. I don't like losing money. I get like annoyed with myself, but the couple of times that I have gambled, I've actually been pretty good at it, I think, because I'm cautious and calculating and whatever. So I just wouldn't, want to spend a lot of time with it. I remember enjoying the poker machines. And once I won like $50 on the poker machines, I stopped and used it to buy dinner for everybody. My parents put $5 in a slot machine. It sucked it up, did nothing. And slot machines I have no interest in whatsoever. That's just like, there's no skill, right? You just pull the handle. Like, why on earth do people like that? I do not get it. But poker machines, I forget how they work, to be honest, but you're basically doing the same thing, right? You're pressing it if you want another card or not. You see the number you have, and then you decide if you want another card or not. And then it shows you also what the other, what the house has, or what the dealer has, or what the other players have, or, something like that. Especially now that they're digital with a giant touch screen. Oh, yeah, I don't remember. I mean, it was that long ago. They weren't at the time. Yeah. So yeah, I'm not a fan, but it was kind of a fun evening. That thingy, that was it. Once every 5 or 10 years is enough for me. But yeah, what other card games did we play? I mean, really in my family, it was mostly cribbage. I remember my mom being pretty good at cards and gambling and stuff too. I think she was good at poker. I don't think my dad played poker. He was a cribbage guy. He was not averse to betting on playing cribbage though. But the things that he and I bet on when I was like 8 years old were, the championship of the block, the championship of the neighborhood, the championship of the town, the championship of the world, stuff like that. Best 2 out of 3. Just, fun stuff like that. I mean, I was a kid. Okay. My neighbor and I literally used a bag of pennies. That's fun. Yeah, that can be fun if you're not actually, And these wax seals on the table here, these kind of remind me of like tokens, right? I would use these. Wouldn't you like use these to bet? I think that would be fun too. Back to lurking. Thanks for popping in, Sebastian. Thanks for being here. All right, well, I'm going to move on as well to chapter 52. Yeah, you'd use those as chips, right? And then you have some of them that are special. They're like, clear or something different. Or square ones. We have square ones. Anyway, that's kind of fun. Okay, chapter 52. One sunny day in the spring when Francie was 16, she walked out of the office at 5 o'clock and saw Anita, a girl who operated a machine in her row, standing in the doorway of the communications building with two soldiers. One, short, stubby, and beaming, held Anita's arm possessively. The other, tall and gangling, stood there awkwardly. Anita detached herself from the soldiers and drew Francie aside. "Francie, you've got to help me out. Joey's on his last leave before his unit goes overseas, and we're engaged." "If you're engaged already, you're doing all right and don't need anyone's help," said Francie jokingly. "I mean help with that other fellow. Joey just had to bring him along, darn it. Seems like they're buddies, and where one goes, the other goes. This other fellow comes from some hick town in Pennsylvania and doesn't know a soul in New York, and I know he'll stick around and I'll never get to be alone with Joey. You've got to help me out, Francie. 3 girls turned me down already." Francie took a speculative look at the Pennsylvania fellow standing 10 feet away. He didn't look like much. No wonder the other 3 girls refused to help out Anita. Then his eyes met hers, and he smiled a slow, shy smile. And somehow, while he wasn't good-looking, he was nicer than good-looking. The shy smile decided Francie. "Look," she said to Anita, "if I can catch my brother where he works, I'll give him a message from my mother. If he's left, I'll have to go home because my mother will worry if I don't turn up for supper." "Hurry up then, phone him," urged Anita. "Here," she fished in her pocketbook, "I'll give you a nickel for the call." Francie phoned from the corner cigar store. It just happened that Neely was still at McGarrity's. She gave him the message. When she got back, she found that Anita and her Joey had gone. The soldier with the shy smile was all alone. "Where's Nita?" she asked. "I reckon she's run out on you. She went off with Joe." Francie was dismayed. She had expected it to be a double date. What in the world was she to do with this tall stranger now? "I don't blame them," he was saying, wanting to be alone. "I'm an engaged man myself. I know how it is. The last leave, the only girl." Engaged, thought Francie. At least he wouldn't try any romancing. "But that's no reason why you should be stuck with me," he went on. "If you'll show me where to get to the subway to 34th Street. I'm a stranger in this city. I'll go back to the hotel room. A person can always write letters, I guess, when there's nothing else to do." He smiled his lonely, shy smile. "I've already phoned my folks that I won't be home, so if you'd like." "Like? Gosh, this is my lucky day. Well, gee, thanks, Miss Nolan, Frances Nolan. My name's Lee Reinort. It's really Leo, but everybody says Lee. I'm sure pleased to meet you, Miss Nolan." He held out his hand. "And I'm pleased to meet you, Corporal Reinort." They shook hands. "Oh, you noticed the stripes," he smiled happily. "I suppose you're hungry after working all day. Any special place you'd like to go for supper? I mean, dinner?" "Supper's okay." No special place. You?" "I'd like to try some of this here chop suey I heard about. There's a nice place up around 42nd Street with music." "Let's go." On the way to the subway, he said, "Miss Nolan, do you care if I call you Frances?" "I don't care. Everybody calls me Francie, though." "Francie," he repeated the name. "Francie, another thing. Would you mind if I sort of made believe that you are my best girl just for this evening?" Thought Francie, fast worker. He took the thought out of her mind. "I guess you think I'm a fast worker, but it's this way. I haven't been out with a girl in nearly a year, and a few days from now I'll be on a boat heading for France, and after that, I don't know what may be. So for these few hours, if you don't mind, I'd consider it a great favor." "I don't mind." "Thanks." He indicated his arm. "Hang on, best girl." As they were about to enter the subway, he paused. "Say Lee," he ordered. "Lee," she said. "Say, hello, Lee. It's so good to see you again, dear." "Hello, Lee. It's so good to see you again," she said shyly. He tightened his arm. I'm not sure about this guy." The waiter at Ruby's put 2 bowls of chop suey and a fat pot of tea between them. "You pour out my tea so it's more home-like," said Lee. "How much sugar?" "I don't take sugar." "Me neither." "Say, we have exactly the same taste, don't we?" he said. Both were very hungry, and they stopped talking in order to concentrate on the slippery, wet food. Every time Francie looked up at him, he smiled. Every time he looked down at her, she grinned happily. After the chop suey, rice, and tea were all gone, he leaned back and took out a pack of cigarettes. "Smoke?" She shook her head. "I tried it once and didn't seem to like it." "Good. I don't like a girl who smokes." Then he started to talk. He told her all that he could remember about himself. He told her of his boyhood in a small Pennsylvania town. She remembered the town from reading its weekly newspaper in the press clipping bureau. He told her about his parents and his brothers and sisters. She spoke of his school days, parties he had gone to, jobs he had worked at. He told her he was 22, how he had come to enlist at 21. He told her about his life in the army camp, how he got to be a corporal. He told her every single thing about himself, excepting the girl he was engaged to back home. And Francie told him of her life. She told only of the happy things, how handsome Papa had been, how wise Mama was, what a swell brother Neely was, and how cute her baby sister was. She told him about the brown bowl on the library desk, about the New Year's night she and Neely had talked on the roof. She didn't mention Ben Blake because he never entered her thoughts. After she had finished, he said, "All my life I've been so lonely. I've been lonely at crowded parties. I've been lonely in the middle of kissing a girl, and I've been lonely at camp with hundreds of fellows around. But now I'm not lonely anymore." He smiled his special, slow, shy smile. "That's the way it was with me too," confessed Francie, "except I've never kissed any boy. And now for the first time, I'm not lonely either." The waiter again replenished their almost filled water glasses. Francie knew it was a hint that they had sat there too long. People were waiting for tables. She asked Lee the time. Almost 10 o'clock. They had been talking for nearly 4 hours. "I have to start for home," she said regretfully. "I'll take you home. Do you live near the Brooklyn Bridge?" "No, the Williamsburg." "I hoped it was the Brooklyn Bridge. I thought that if I ever got to New York, I'd like to walk across the Brooklyn Bridge." "Why not?" suggested Francie. "I can get a Graham Avenue trolley from the Brooklyn end that will take me right to my corner." They took the IRT subway to Brooklyn Bridge, got out, and started to walk across. Halfway over, they paused to look down on the East River. They stood close together, and he held her hand. He looked up at the skyline on the Manhattan shore. "New York, I've always wanted to see it, and now I've seen it. It's true what they say. It's the most wonderful city in the world. Brooklyn's better. It hasn't got skyscrapers like New York, has it?" "No, but there's a feeling about it. Oh, I can't explain it. You've got to live in Brooklyn to know." "We'll live in Brooklyn someday," he said quietly. And her heart skipped a beat. She saw one of the cops who patrolled the bridge coming toward them. "We'd better move," she said uneasily. "The Brooklyn Navy Yard's right over there, and that camouflage boat anchored there is a transport. The cops are always watching out for spies." As the cop came up to them, Lee said, "We're not going to blow up anything. We're just looking at the East River." Sure, said the cop. "Don't I know how it is on a fine May night? Wasn't I young meself once, and not so long ago as you might think?" He smiled at them. Lee smiled back, and Francie grinned at both of them. The cop glanced at Lee's sleeve. "Well, so long, General," said the cop. "Give 'em hell when you get over there." "I'll do that," promised Lee. The cop went on his way. "Nice guy," commented Lee. "Everybody's nice," said Francie happily. When they got to the Brooklyn side, she said that he was not to take her the rest of the way home. She had often gone home alone late at night, when working on the night shift, she explained. He'd get lost if he tried to find his way back to New York from her neighborhood. Brooklyn was tricky that way. You had to live there in order to find your way about, she said. In truth, she didn't want him to see where she lived. She loved her neighborhood and wasn't ashamed of it, but she felt that to a stranger who didn't know about it the way she did, it might seem a mean and shabby place. First, she showed him where to get the L that would return him to New York. Then they walked over to where she had to get the trolley. They passed a one-window tattoo shop. Inside sat a young sailor with his sleeve rolled up. The tattoo artist sat before him on a stool, with his pan of inks nearby. He was pricking out an arrow-pierced heart on the sailor boy's arm. Francie and Lee stopped to stare in the window. The sailor waved at them with his free arm. They waved back. The artist looked up and made signs that they were welcome to enter. Francie frowned and shook her head no. Walking away from the store, Lee said with wonder in his voice, "That fellow was actually getting tattooed. Gosh!" "Don't you ever let me catch you getting tattooed," she said with playful severity. "No, Mother," he answered meekly, and they laughed. They stood on the corner waiting for the trolley. An awkward silence came between them. They stood apart, and he kept lighting cigarettes and discarding them before they were half smoked. Finally, a trolley came in sight. Here comes my car, said Francie. She held out her right hand. Good night, Lee. He threw away the cigarette he had just lighted. Francie? He held out his arms. She went to him, and he kissed her. Wow. Romance. Let me have a sip of tea before moving on. Well, we can't stop reading now. Or I can spill the tea. Okay, hang on just a moment. I mean, like actually spill it, not, the colloquial phrase. Okay, hold on. I knocked over my cup. I got so excited. It's not on the book, but it did go under my laptop a little bit. So I'm going to take my tea towel. This is why we have these. And dry up everything that didn't land inside the tea tray. Yeah, I guess it did. I mean, it did go. A few drops went under the laptop. No biggie. I get that. Actually, it didn't go under the laptop. It went under the cooling platform that the laptop sits on. So it was never really near the laptop. I don't know if you guys can't even see it, but it sits on a one of those cooling thingies. It's got fans in it. And then some spilled on the actual floor. Let me just get all that. Got carried away. And the floor is also just like, vinyl plank, so no biggie there. It was like a whole fresh cup. But it wasn't hot, it was just like room temperature. So I guess it wasn't that fresh. All right, I think I got it. These things happen, that's why we have this command. Yeah, it used to have like a spilly. Well, the story just suddenly got exciting too. Francie had a very successful, unexpected blind date. She got kissed. All right, I think I wiped up everything that really matters right now. This table that you see here is just a really old, it's an antique, I guess. Yeah, it's definitely an antique. It's an old desk, but it's quite a large desk. We use it for a dining table and it easily seats. There's 4 chairs, that easily fit around it. But the wood is like super old. I don't know if you can see over here, there's all these holes in it where I think some kid that used to live here, I think this table's been in this apartment for a long time. It doesn't belong to us. But a family used to live in here before us, and there's all these holes throughout that I didn't really understand what they were, but Mr. Oolong mentioned at one point that this is what happens if like a kid is like banging, jamming his fork into the table, pounding on the table with his fork. So it's not gonna hurt the table. There's areas of the table where the finish is kind of worn off and stuff like that. Okay, I think we're back in business here. I did just run out of tea though when I spilled it. So actually I'm gonna make more tea since I'm out. Suddenly and unexpectedly out of tea. Water's still staying nicely at the right temperature, so quick and easy to make more. That's the beauty of gong fu, is it only takes, a matter of seconds, not minutes. Overexcited about tea. Yeah, that little guy is the hype command. The excited lamb. Okay. Crisis averted. Okay, we're just going to wait a moment to steep, and then we'll move on. And we can go, let's see, at least a few more pages. There's a end of chapter end. And then maybe we'll end at the end of chapter 53. No, we'll go through chapter 53 and stop at chapter 54. Let me pour this out. Ooh, little pot gets hot if you touch it too close to the body of the pot. Alrighty. I've always thought that I was probably going to knock my cup over one of these days. I'm surprised I didn't knock it off the table. But yeah, right here is kind of by my right hand. And also this one has like a flared edge. I love these cups, but you can see it has a flared edge. So like I just caught my, hand on the edge and it just went over. It's not really tippy. I mean, it's not like it's tall and skinny or anything. But somehow I just sort of hit it just right and just rolled over. Okay. All right, let's find out more about this romance here. The next morning, Francie dressed in her new navy blue file suit with the white georgette crepe blouse and her Sunday patent leather pumps. She and Lee had no date, had made no arrangements to meet again, but she knew he'd be waiting for her at 5 o'clock. Neely got up from bed as she was about to leave. She asked him to tell Mama she wouldn't be home for supper. "Francie's got a feller at last! Francie's got a feller at last!" chanted Neely. He went to Lori, who was sitting by the window in her high chair. There was a bowl of oatmeal on the chair's tray. The baby was busily engaged in spooning out the oatmeal and dumping it on the floor. Neely chucked her under the chin. "Hey, Dopey, at last Francie's got a feller." A faint line appeared on the inner edge of the child's right eyebrow. The Romilly line, Katie called it. Oh, hey, I have it. Mine's on the left, though. And the 2-year-old tried to understand. "Fran, me?" she said in a puzzled way. "Listen, Neely, I got her out of bed and gave her her oatmeal. It's your job to feed her now, and don't call her Dopey." As she came out of the hallway onto the street, she heard her name called. She looked up. Neely was hanging out of the window in his pajamas. He sang at the top of his voice. "There she goes, on her toes, all dressed up in her Sunday clothes." "Neely, you're terrible, just terrible," she called up to the window. He pretended not to understand. "Did you say he was terrible? Did you say he had a big mustache and a baldy head?" "You better go feed the baby," she hollered back. "Did you say you were going to have a baby, Francie? Did you say you were going to have a baby?" A man passing on the street winked at Francie. 2 girls coming by, arm in arm, had a terrific fit of giggling. "You damned kid," screamed Francie in impotent fury. "You cursed! I'm going to tell Mama! I'm going to tell Mama! I'm going to tell Mama you cursed!" chanted Neely. She heard the trolley coming and had to run for it. He was waiting for her when she got out of work. He met her with that smile. "Hello, my best girl." He tucked his arm within his. "Hello, Lee. It's good to see you again." "Dear," he prompted. "Dear," she added. They ate at the Automat, another place he had wanted to see. Since smoking wasn't permitted there and Lee couldn't sit still for long without smoking, they didn't linger to talk after coffee and dessert. They decided to go dancing. They found a dime dance place just off Broadway where servicemen were given half rates. He bought a strip of 20 tickets for $1 and they started to dance. They had gone but halfway around the floor when Francie discovered that his gangling awkwardness was extremely deceptive. He was a smooth and skillful dancer. They danced, holding each other closely. There was no need for conversation. The orchestra was playing one of Francie's favorite songs, Some Sunday Morning. Some Sunday morning when the weather's fine. She hummed the chorus as the vocalist sang it. Dressed up in gingham, what a bride I'll be. She felt Lee's arm tighten around her. I know my girlfriends, they're gonna envy me. Francie was so happy. Once more around the floor, then the vocalist sang the chorus again, this time varying it slightly in honor of the soldiers present. Dressed up in khaki, what a groom you'll be. Her arm tightened around his shoulders, and she rested her cheek on his tunic. She had the same thought Katie had had 17 years ago, dancing with Johnny, that she'd willingly accept any sacrifice or hardship if she could only have this man near her for always. And like Katie, Francie gave no thought to the children who might have to help her work out the hardship and sacrifice. A group of soldiers were leaving the hall. As was the custom, the orchestra cut off the song they were playing and went into Till We Meet Again. Everyone stopped dancing and sang a farewell to the soldiers. Francie and Lee held hands and sang, even though neither was quite certain of the words. When the clouds roll by, then I'll come back to you, then the skies will seem more blue. They were cries of goodbye, soldier, good luck, soldier, till we meet again, soldier. Then the departing soldiers stood in a group and sang the song. Lee pulled Francie toward the door. We'll leave now, he said, so that this moment will remain a perfect memory. They walked down the stairs slowly, the song following them. As they reached the street, they waited until the song died away. Pray each night for me till we meet again. Let it be our song, he whispered, and think of me every time you hear it. As they walked, it started to rain, and they had to run and find shelter in the doorway of a vacant store. They stood in the protected and dark doorway, held each other's hand, and watched the rain falling. People always think that happiness is a faraway thing, thought Francie, something complicated and hard to get. Yet what little things can make it up? A place of shelter when it rains, a cup of strong hot coffee when you're blue, for a man, a cigarette for contentment, a book to read when you're alone, just to be with someone you love. Those things make happiness. I'm leaving early in the morning. Not for France. Suddenly she was jolted out of her happiness. No, for home. My mother wants me for a day or two before... Oh, I love you, Francie. But you're engaged. That's the first thing you ever told me. Engaged, he said bitterly. Everybody's engaged. Everybody in a small town is engaged or married or in trouble. There's nothing else to do in a small town. You go to school, you start walking home with a girl, maybe for no other reason than that she lives out your way. You grow up, she invites you to parties at her home. You go to other parties, people ask you to bring her along. You're expected to take her home. Soon, no one else takes her out. Everybody thinks she's your girl, and then, well, if you don't take her around, you feel like a heel. And then, because there's nothing else to do, you marry. And it works out all right if she's a decent girl, and most of the time she is, and you're a halfway decent fellow. No great passion, but a kind of affectionate contentment. And then children come along and you give them the great love you kind of miss in each other. And the children gain in the long run. Yes, I'm engaged all right, but it isn't the same between her and me as it is between you and me. But you're going to marry her? He waited a long time before he answered. No. She was happy again. Say it, Francie, he whispered. Say it. She said, I love you, Lee. This is their second date, right? Francie, there was urgency in his voice. I may not come back from over there, and I'm afraid. Afraid. I might die. Die, never having had anything. Never. Francie, can't we be together for a little while? We are together, said Francie innocently. I mean, in a room, alone? Just till morning when I leave? I couldn't. Don't you want to? Yes, she answered honestly. Then why? I'm only 16, she confessed bravely. I've never been with anybody. I wouldn't know how. That makes no difference. And I've never been away from home overnight. My mother would worry. You could tell her you spent the night with a girlfriend. She knows I have no girlfriend. You could think of some excuse tomorrow. I wouldn't need to think of an excuse. I'd tell her the truth. You would? He asked in astonishment. I love you. I wouldn't be ashamed. Afterwards, if I stayed with you, I'd be proud and happy, and I wouldn't want to lie about it. I had no way of knowing. No way of knowing, he whispered as if to himself. You wouldn't want it to be something sneaky, would you? Francie, forgive me. I shouldn't have asked. I had no way of knowing. Knowing? Asked Francie, puzzled. He put his arms around her and held her tightly. She saw that he was crying. Francie, I'm afraid, so afraid. I'm afraid that if I go away, I'll lose you, never see you again. Tell me not to go home and I'll stay. We'll have tomorrow and the next day. We'll eat together and walk around or sit in a park or ride on top of a bus and just talk and be with each other. Tell me not to go. I guess you have to go. I guess that it's right that you see your mother once more before. I don't know, but I guess it's right. Francie, will you marry me when the war's over, if I come back? When you come back, I'll marry you. Will you, Francie, please, will you? Yes. Say it again. I'll marry you when you come back, Lee. And Francie will live in Brooklyn. We'll live wherever you want to live. We'll live in Brooklyn then. Only if you want to, Lee. And will you write to me every day? Every day? Every day, she promised. And will you write me tonight when you get home and tell me how much you love me so that the letter will be waiting for me when I get home, she promised? She promised. Will you promise never to let anyone kiss you? Never to go out with anyone? To wait for me, no matter how long? And if I don't come back, never to want to marry anyone else? Jeez, kid. She promised. And he asked for her whole life as simply as he'd ask for a date. And she promised away her whole life as simply as she'd offer a hand in greeting or farewell. It stopped raining after a while and the stars came out. Geez, kids, huh? Okay, one more chapter. Chapter 53. She wrote that night, as she had promised, a long letter in which she poured out all her love and repeated the promises she had given. She left a little earlier for work to have time to mail the letter from the 34th Street post office. The clerk at the window assured her that it would reach its destination that afternoon. That was Wednesday. She looked for but tried not to expect a letter Thursday night. There hadn't been time, unless he too wrote immediately after they had parted. But of course he had to pack maybe, get up early to make his train. It never occurred to her that she had managed to find time. There was no letter Thursday night. Friday she had to work straight through, a 16-hour shift, because the company was shorthanded on account of an influenza epidemic. We know about that one. When she got home a little before 2 a.m, there was a letter propped against the sugar bowl on the kitchen table. She ripped it open eagerly. Dear Miss Nolan. Her happiness died. It couldn't be from Lee because he'd write, Dear Francie. She turned the page and looked at the signature, Elizabeth Reiner, Mrs. Oh, his mother. Or his sister-in-law. Maybe he was sick and couldn't write. Maybe there was an army rule that men about to go overseas couldn't write letters. He had asked someone to write for him. Of course, that was it. She started to read the letter. Lee told me all about you. I want to thank you for being so nice and friendly to him while he was in New York. He arrived home Wednesday afternoon, but had to leave for camp the next night. He was home only a day and a half. We had a very quiet wedding, just the families and a few friends. Francie put the letter down. I've been working 16 hours in a row, she thought, and I'm tired. I've read thousands of messages today, and no words make sense right now. Anyhow, I got into bad reading habits at the bureau, reading a column at a glance and seeing only one word in it. First, I'll wash the sleep out of my eyes, have some coffee, and read the letter again. This time I'll read it right. While the coffee heated, she splashed cold water on her face, thinking that when she came to the part of the letter that said wedding, she'd go on reading and the next words would be, Lee was the best man. I married his brother, you know. Katie, lying awake in the bed, heard Francie moving about in the kitchen. She lay tense, waiting, and she wondered what it was she waited for. Wedding, just the families and a few friends. Lee asked me to write and explain why he hadn't answered your letter. Again, thank you for entertaining him so nicely while he was in your city. Yours truly, Elizabeth Reiner, Mrs. There was a postscript. I read the letter you sent Lee. It was mean of him to pretend to be in love with you, and I told him so. He said to tell you he's dreadfully sorry. E.R. Francie was trembling violently. Her teeth made little biting sounds. Mama, she moaned. Mama. Oh, it's so hard. It's so hard. Katie heard the story. It's come at last, she thought, the time when you can no longer stand between your children and heartache. When there wasn't enough food in the house, you pretended that you weren't hungry so they could have more. In the cold of a winter's night, you got up and put your blanket on their bed so they wouldn't be cold. You'd kill anyone who tried to harm them. I tried my best to kill that man in the hallway. Then one sunny day, they walk out in all innocence, and they walk right into the grief that you'd give your life to spare them. Francie gave her the letter. She read it slowly, and as she read, she thought she knew how it was. Here is a man of 22 who evidently, to use one of Sissy's phrases, had been around. Here was a girl 16 years old, 6 years younger than he. A girl, in spite of bright red lipstick and grown-up clothes and a lot of knowledge picked up here and there, who was yet tremulously innocent. A girl who had come face to face with some of the evil of the world and most of its hardships, and yet had remained curiously untouched by the world. Yes, she could understand her appeal for him. Well, what could she say? That he was no good, or at best just a weak man who was easily susceptible to whoever he was with? No, she couldn't be so cruel as to say that. Besides, the girl wouldn't believe her anyhow. Say something, demanded Francie. Why don't you say something? What can I say? Say that I'm young, that I'll get over it. Go ahead and say it. Go ahead and lie. I know that's what people say. You'll get over it. I'd say it too, but I know it's not true. Oh, you'll be happy again, never fear. But you won't forget. Every time you fall in love, it will be because something in the man reminds you of him. Mother, Katie remembered. She had called her own mother Mama until the day she had told her that she was going to marry Johnny. She had said, Mother, I'm going to marry. She had never said Mama after that. She had finished growing up when she stopped calling her mother Mama. Now Francie. Mother, he asked me to be with him for the night. Should I have gone? Katie's mind darted around looking for words. Don't make up a lie, Mother. Tell me the truth. Katie couldn't find the right words. I promise you that I'll never go with a man without being married first, if I ever marry. And if I feel that I must, without being married, I'll tell you first. That's a solemn promise. So you can tell me the truth without worrying that I'll go wrong if I know it. There are two truths, said Katie finally. As a mother, I say it would have been a terrible thing for a girl to sleep with a stranger, a man she had known less than 48 hours. Horrible things might have happened to you. Your whole life might have been ruined. As your mother, I tell you the truth. But as a woman, she hesitated. I will tell you the truth, as a woman, it would have been a very beautiful thing, because there is only once that you love that way. Francie thought, I should have gone with him then. I'll never love anyone as much again. I wanted to go, and I didn't go, and now I don't want him anyway that more, because she owns him now. But I wanted to, and I didn't, and now it's too late. She put her head down on the table and wept. After a while, Katie said, I got a letter too. Her letter had come several days ago, but she had been waiting for the right time to mention it. She decided that this was a good time. I got a letter, she repeated. Who wrote? Sobbed Francie. Mr. McShane. Francie sobbed louder. Aren't you interested? Francie tried to stop crying. All right, what does he say? She asked listlessly. What does he say? She asked listlessly. Nothing, except he's coming to see us next week. She waited. Francie showed no further sign of interest. How would you like Mr. McShane for a father? Francie's head jerked up. Mother, a man writes that he's coming to the house. Right away you think things. What makes you think you know everything all the time? I don't know. I don't know anything, really. I just feel. And then when the feeling is strong enough, then I just say I know, but I don't. Well, how would you like to have him as a father? After the botch I've made of my own life, said Francie bitterly, and Katie didn't smile. I'm the last person to hand out advice. I'm not asking for your advice, only I'd know better what to do if I knew how my children felt about him. Francie suspected that her mother's talking about McShane was a trick to divert her thoughts, and she was angry because the trick had almost worked. I don't know, Mother. I don't know anything, and I don't want to talk about anything anymore. Please go away. Please go away and let me alone. Katie went back to bed. Well, a person can only cry so long. Then he has to do something else with his time. It was 5 o'clock. Francie decided it was no use going to bed. She'd have to get up again at 7. She discovered that she was very hungry. She had had nothing to eat since noon the day before, except a sandwich between the day and night shift. She made a pot of fresh coffee, some toast, and scrambled a couple of eggs. She was astonished at how good everything tasted. But while she was eating, her eyes went to the letter and the tears came again. She put the letter in the sink and set a match to it. Then she turned on the faucet and watched the black ashes go down the drain. She resumed her breakfast. Afterwards, she got her box of writing paper from the cupboard and sat down to write a letter. She wrote, "Dear Ben, you said I was to write if ever I needed you, so I'm writing." She tore the sheet in half. "No, I don't want to need anybody. I want someone to need me. I want someone to need me." She wept again, but not so hard this time. Wow. Heavy stuff. Okay, there's only a little bit left of the book. You know what? I think I can finish today. There's only like a little bit more, so I don't know what time it is for you all, but we'll just go ahead and do this, and then, I can put it up on the YouTubes later, and everyone can catch up. Because we really just have a few more little chapters, really, and afterwards. So you're just chilling? Okay. Texas has insomnia, right? So it's only 20 after 6 here, so I will go ahead and finish the book. Let's go. It's kind of hard to put down now. So much drama. Chapter 54. It was the first time Francie had seen McShane without his uniform. She decided that he looked very impressive in his expensively tailored, double-breasted gray suit. Of course, he wasn't as good-looking as Papa had been. He was taller and more massive, but he was handsome in his own way, decided Francie, even though his hair was gray. But gosh, he was awful old for Mother. True, Mother wasn't so young. Notice she calls her Mother now, yeah. True, Mother wasn't so young either. She was going on 35. Still, that was much younger than 50. Anyhow, no woman need to be ashamed to have McShane for a husband. While he looked exactly what he was, a shrewd politician, his voice was gentle when he spoke. They were having coffee and cake. With a pang, Francie noticed that McShane was sitting in her father's place at the table. Katie had just finished telling him all that had happened since Johnny died. McShane seemed amazed at the progress they had made. He looked at Francie. "So this slip of a girl got herself to college last summer. And she's going again this summer," announced Katie proudly. "That's wonderful for you. And she works in the bargain and earns $20 a week now. All that in good health too?" he asked in honest amazement. "The boy is halfway through high school." "No. And he works at this and that afternoons and evenings. Sometimes he earns as much as $5 a week outside of school. A fine lad. One of the finest of lads, and look at the health of him, would you know." Would you now? He's Irish, McShane. Francie wondered why he commented so much on the health, which they themselves always took for granted. Then she remembered about his own children, how most of them had been born but to sicken and die before they grew up. No wonder he thought healthiness was such a remarkable thing. "And the baby?" he inquired. "Go get her, Francie," said Katie. The baby was in her crib in the front room. It was supposed to be Francie's room, but all had agreed that the baby needed to sleep where there was air. Francie picked up the sleeping child. She opened her eyes and instantly was ready for anything. "Bye-bye, Franny. Park?" she asked. "No, sweet, just an introduction to a man." "Man?" said Laurie doubtfully. "Yes, a great big man." "Big man," repeated the child happily. Francie brought her out to the kitchen. The baby was truly a beautiful thing to see. She had a fresh, dewy look in her pink flannel nightgown. Her hair was a mass of soft black curls. Her widely set apart dark eyes were luminous, and there was a dusky rose color in her cheeks. "Oh, the baby, crooned McShane. "'Tis a rose she is, a wild rose." If Papa were here, thought Francie, he'd start to sing, "My wild Irish rose." She heard her mother sigh and wondered whether she too was thinking. McShane took the baby. The child sat on his knees, stiffened her back away from him, and stared at him doubtfully. Katie hoped she wouldn't cry. "Lori," she said, "Mr. McShane. Say Mr. McShane." The child lowered her head, looked up through her lashes, smiled knowingly, and shook her head no. "No, Maine," she stated. "Man," she shouted triumphantly. "Big man." She smiled at McShane and said wheedlingly, "Take Lori bye-bye? Park? Park?" Then she rested her cheek against his coat and closed her eyes. "Aroon, Aroon," McShane crooned. The child slept in his arms. "Mrs. Nolan, you're wondering why I came tonight. Let your wondering be over. I came to ask a personal question." Francie and Neely got up to leave. "No, don't be leaving, children. The question would be concerning you as well as your mother." They sat down again. He cleared his throat. "Mrs. Nolan, time has passed since your husband, God rest his soul." "Yes, 2.5 years, God rest his soul." "God rest his soul," echoed Francie and Neely. "And my wife, 'tis a year since she's been gone, God rest her soul." "God rest her soul," echoed the Nolans. "I've been waiting many years, and now the time has come when 'tis no longer disrespect to the dead to speak out. Catherine Nolan, I'm asking to keep company with you. Object, a wedding in the fall." Katie looked quickly at Francie and frowned. What was the matter with Mother anyhow? Francie wasn't even thinking of laughing. "I'm in a position to take care of you and the 3 children. With my pension and salary and income from real estate in Woodhaven and Richmond Hill, I have over $10,000 a year. I have insurance too. I offer to put the boy and girl through college, and I promise to be a faithful husband in the future as I was in the past." "Have you thought this over, Mr. McShane?" "I don't need to be thinking. Sure, didn't I make up me mind 5 years ago when I first saw you first at the Mahoney outin'? 'Twas then I asked the girl if it was her mother you were. I am a scrub woman without education." She stated it as a fact, not an apology. "Education? And sure, who was it taught me to read and write? Nobody but meself." "But a man like you, in public life, needs a wife who knows social business, who can entertain his influential business friends. I'm not that kind of a woman. My office is where I do my business entertaining. My home is where I live. Now, I'm not meaning you wouldn't be a credit to me. You'd be a credit to a better man. But I'm needing no woman to help me out in my business. I can handle that myself, thank you. Need I be saying I love you?" He hesitated before calling her by her first name. "Catherine? And is it time you want to think it over?" "No, I don't need time to think it over. I will marry you, Mr. McShane. Not for your income, although I'm not overlooking that. 10,000's a year's lot of money, or 10,000 a year's a lot of money. But so is 1,000 to people like us. We've had little money and are well trained in doing without it. It's not for sending the children to college. Your help will make it so easy, but without help at all, I know we'd manage some way. It's not for your grand public position, although it'll be fine to have a husband to be proud of. I will marry you because you are a good man and I'd like to have you for my husband." It was true, Katie had made up her mind to marry him, if he asked her, simply because life was incomplete without a man to love her. It had nothing to do with her love for Johnny. She'd always loved him. Her feeling for McShane was quieter. She admired and respected him, and she knew she'd be a good wife to him. "Thank you, Catherine. Sure, it's little enough I'm given in exchange for a pretty young wife and 3 healthy children," he said in sincere humility. He turned to Francie. "As the eldest, do you be approving?" Francie looked at her mother, who seemed to be waiting for her to speak. She looked at her brother. He nodded. "I think my brother and I would like to have you for a..." Tears came into her eyes as she thought of her father, and she couldn't say that next word. Now, said McShane soothingly. "I'll not have you worrying." He turned to Katie. "I'm not asking that the 2 oldest call me father. They had a father, and he as fine a lad as God ever made. The way he was always singing..." Francie felt her throat tightening. "And I won't be asking that they take my name, Nolan being the fine name it is. But this little one I'm holding, the one who never looked on a father's face, would you be letting her call me father? And letting me legally adopt her and give her the name that you and I will be carrying together?" Katie looked at Francie and Neely. How would they take it? Their sister called McShane instead of Nolan. Francie nodded approval. Neely nodded approval. "We will give you the child," said Katie. "We can't call you father," said Neely suddenly, "but we'll call you dad, maybe." "I'm thanking you," said McShane simply. He relaxed and smiled at them. "Now I'm wondering if I could smoke me pipe." Oh my God, the guy sounds like a leprechaun, doesn't he? "Why, you could have smoked any time without asking," said Katie in surprise. I didn't want to be taking privileges before I was entitled to them," he explained. Francie took the sleeping baby away from him in order to let him smoke. "Help me put her to bed, Neely." "Why?" Neely was thoroughly enjoying himself and didn't want to leave. "To fix the blankets in the crib. Somebody's got to do it while I hold her." Did Neely know anything? Didn't he know that maybe McShane and Mother wanted to be alone for a minute at least? In the darkness of the front room, Francie whispered to her brother, "What do you think of it?" "It's sure a good break for Mama. Of course, he isn't Papa." No one will ever be Papa. But aside from that, he's a nice man, though. Laurie's going to have a mighty easy life, all right. Annie Laurie McShane. She'll never have the hard times we had, will she? No, and she'll never have the fun we had either. Gosh, we did have fun, didn't we, Neely? Yeah, poor Laurie, said Francie pityingly. Oh my gosh, that's so wholesome. Okay, a little bit of tea and book 5. What do you guys think of this? The way things turned out. Can't say it was a surprise, you know. Here's a picture of a doll, an illustration. I wonder if this is, well, we'll see. Kind of reminds me of the doll that was called Mary. But it could be a doll that somebody buys for somebody in this book. Okay, book 5. Francie jumped as someone tapped her on the shoulder. Then she relaxed and smiled. Of course, it was 1 o'clock in the morning. She was through, and her relief had come to take over the machine. Let me send just one more, begged Francie. The way some people like their jobs, smiled the relief. Francie typed her last message slowly and lovingly. She was glad it was a birth announcement rather than a notification of a death. The message was her farewell. She hadn't told anyone she was leaving. She was afraid she'd break down and cry if she went around saying goodbye. Like her mother, she was afraid of being openly sentimental. Instead of going directly to her locker, she stopped off in the big recreation room where some girls were making the most of their 15-minute rest period. They were grouped around a girl at the piano and were singing, "Hello, Central, Give Me No Man's Land." As Francie walked in, the pianist drifted into another song inspired by Francie's new gray fall suit and her gray suede pumps. The girls sang, "There's a Quaker down in Quakertown." A girl put her arm around Francie and drew her into the circle. Francie sang with them. "Down in her heart, I know she's not so slow." Francie, where'd you ever get the idea for an all-gray outfit? Oh, I don't know. Some actress I saw when I was a kid. Don't remember her name, but the show was The Minister's Sweetheart. It's cute. She has that meet me later look, my little Quaker down in Quakertown. Downtown, harmonized the girls in a grand finale. Next they sang, "You'll Find Old Dixieland in France." Francie went over to stand at the great window from which she could see the East River 20 stories below. It was the last time she'd see the river from that window. The last time of anything has the poignancy of death itself. This that I see now, she thought, to see more this way. Oh, the last time, how clearly you see everything, as though a magnifying light had been turned on it. And you grieve because you hadn't held it tighter when you had it every day. What had Grandma Romilly said? To look at everything always as though you were seeing it either for the first or last time. Thus is your time on earth filled with glory. Grandma Mary Romilly. She had lingered on for months in her last illness, but a time had come when Steve came just before dawn to tell them. I'll miss her, he said. She was a great lady. You mean a great woman, said Katie. Okay, tea time. Real quick refill here. I'm going to go ahead and drain that out a little bit. Okay, kettle's still on. I had to check that. Wasn't so sure for a minute. All right. In fact, this is so cold, I'm going to go ahead and pour it out. Everything's turning out well. I don't know about the war, but family, their family situation. Let's give this a little bit of extra time to steep because we're really getting down to the end of the cycle on this one. What a nice mellow song. I'm going to go ahead and give a shout out to Johnny Bailey, our streamer friend who wrote all of this music that we've been enjoying in the background. Let's have another piece of sweet potato while we wait. I'm eating all the smaller pieces on the plate. The bigger pieces are a bit of a commitment. I really do like this. Yum, yum, yum. I actually like these better after they've been sitting out on the table for a while because the stickiness dries off, dissipates a little, which is a contrast to everything else I put on my table in this humidity. Pastries and everything get super sticky, but these actually got less sticky, and I appreciate that. I don't feel like I have to wash my hand every time that I pick one up. Earlier, I was eating them with a fork. All right, let's see how this whole thing turns out. Keeping in mind that this is a true story, which I did not know the first couple times I read it. Or actually, even when I started reading it this time around. I have a feeling that it might be slightly embellished, but now we're just down to the comforting steeps where it tastes great. It still tastes great, but it's not, it doesn't knock you out with all the aromas and flavors and stuff now. Now I would think it just tastes like tea. It tastes like a nice light black tea, even though it isn't oolong tea. Okie dokie. Why, puzzled Francie, had Uncle Willie chosen that time to leave his family? She watched the boat glide under the bridge before she resumed her thoughts. Was it that one less Romilly woman to be accountable to made him feel more free? Had her death given him the idea that there was such a thing as escape? Or was it, as Evie claimed, that he was able, in his meanness, to take advantage of the confusion created by Grandma's funeral to run away from his family? Whatever it was, Willie was gone. Oh, hey, good night, Sebastian. Have a great night. Sleep well and have a great week to come, and Happy New Year to you. Thank you for being here, popping in from time to time and lurking. Willie Flitman. He had practiced desperately until he got so that he could play all the instruments at once. Then, as a one-man band, he competed with others at a movie house on amateur night. He won the first prize of $10. He never came home with the prize money and his instruments, and no one in the family had seen him since. They heard about him now and then. It seemed that he was roaming the streets of Brooklyn as a one-man band and living on the pennies he collected. Evie said he'd be home again when the snow started to fly, but Francie, for one, doubted it. Evie got a job in the factory where he had worked. She earned $30 a week and got along fine, except at night when, like all Romilly women, she found it hard to get along without a man. Francie, standing at the window overlooking the river, recalled how always there had been something dreamlike about Uncle Willie. But then so many things seemed like dreams to her. That man in the hallway, that day, surely that had been a dream. The way McShane had been waiting for Mother all those years, a dream. Papa dead. For a long time that had been a dream, but now Papa was like someone who had never been. The way Laurie seemed to come out of a dream, born the living child of a father 5 months dead. Brooklyn was a dream. All the things that happened there just couldn't happen. It was all dream stuff. Or was it all real and true, and was it that she, Francie, was the dreamer? Well, she'd find out when she got out to Michigan. If there was that same dream feeling about Michigan, then Francie would know that she was the one dreaming. Ann Arbor. The University of Michigan was there, and in 2 more days she would be on a train heading for Ann Arbor. Summer school was over. She had passed the 4 subjects she had elected. Crammed by Ben, she had passed the Regents College entrance examinations too. That meant that she, 16 and a half years old, could now enter college with half a year's freshman credits behind her. She had wanted to go to Columbia in New York or Adelphi in Brooklyn, but Ben said that part of education was adapting oneself to a new environment. Her mother and McShane had agreed. Even Neely said it would be a good thing for her to go far off to college. She might get rid of her Brooklyn accent that way. But Francie didn't want to get rid of it any more than she wanted to get rid of her name. It meant that she belonged someplace. She was a Brooklyn girl with a Brooklyn name and a Brooklyn accent. She didn't want to change into a bit of this and a bit of that. Ben had chosen Michigan for her. He said it was a liberal state college, had a good English department, and low tuition. Francie wondered if it was so good why he hadn't matriculated there instead of at the university of another Midwestern state. He explained that eventually he would practice in that state, enter its politics, and he might as well be classmates with its prominent citizens of the future. Boy, this guy has thought of everything. Ben was 20 now. He was in the Reserve Officers Training Corps of his college, ROTC, and he looked very handsome in his uniform. Ben. She looked at the ring on the 3rd finger of her left hand. Ben's high school ring. MHS 1918. Inside was engraved BB to FN. He had told her that while he knew his mind, she was too young to know hers. He gave her the ring to bind what he called their understanding. Of course, it would be 5 more years before he'd be in a position to marry, he said. By that time, she'd be old enough to know her own mind. Then, if there was still the understanding, he'd ask her to accept another kind of ring. Since Francie had 5 years in which to make up her mind, the responsibility of deciding whether or not to marry Ben did not weigh too heavily on her. Amazing Ben! He had graduated from high school in January 1918, had entered college immediately, taken a staggering number of courses, and had come back to summer school in Brooklyn to take more work and, as he confessed at the end of the session, to be with Francie again. Now in September 1918, he was returning to college to start his junior year. Good old Ben. Decent, honorable, and brilliant. He knew his own mind. He'd never ask one girl to marry him and the next day go off and marry another girl. He'd never ask her to write out her love and then let someone else read the letter. Not Ben. Not Ben. Yes, Ben was wonderful. She was proud to have him for a friend. But she thought of Lee. Lee. Where was Lee now? He had sailed away to France on a transport, just like the one she now saw slipping out of the harbor. A long boat with its swirls of camouflage and the silent white faces of its 1,000 soldier passengers, looking from where she stood like so many white-headed pins in a long, awkward pincushion. Francie, I'm afraid, so afraid. I'm afraid that if I go away, I'll lose you. Never see you again. Tell me not to go. I guess it's right that you see your mother once more before... I don't know. He was with the Rainbow Division, the division even now pushing into the Argonne Woods. Was he even now lying dead in France under a plain white cross? Who would tell her if he died? Not the woman in Pennsylvania, Elizabeth Reiner, Mrs. Anita had left months ago to work somewhere else and had left no address. No one to ask, no one to tell her. Fiercely, she wished he were dead so that the woman in Pennsylvania could never have him. In the next breath, she prayed, "Oh God, don't let him be killed, and I won't complain no matter who has him. Please, please. Oh, time passed so that I forget. You'll be happy again, never fear, but you won't forget." Mother was wrong. She had to be wrong. Francie wanted to forget. It was 4 months since she had known him, but she couldn't forget. Happy again, but she'll never forget. How could she be happy again if she couldn't forget? Oh, time, great healer, pass over me and let me forget. Every time you fall in love, it will be because something in the man reminds you of him. Ben had the same slow smile, but she had thought she was in love with Ben last year, long before she had seen Lee, so that didn't work out. Lee. The recreation period was over and a new bunch of girls came in. It was their recreation period now. They flocked around the piano and started on a sequence of smile songs. Francie knew what would come. Run, you fool, before the waves of hurt start breaking. But she couldn't move. They did Ted Lewis's song, "For When My Baby Smiles at Me." From that, it was inevitable that they go into "There Are Smiles That Make You Happy." And then it came. "Smile the while you kiss me sad adieu." Think of me every time you hear it. Think of me. She ran out of the room. She snatched her gray hat and her new gray purse and gloves from her locker. She ran from the elevator. She ran for the elevator. She looked up and down the canyon-like street. It was dark and deserted. A tall man in uniform stood in the shadowed doorway of the next building. He walked out of the dark and came toward her with a shy, lonely smile. She closed her eyes. Grandma had said that the Romilly woman had the power of seeing the ghosts of their beloved dead. Francie had never believed it because she had never seen Papa. But now... "Hello, Francie." She opened her eyes. No, he wasn't a ghost. "I had an idea that you'd feel blue your last night on the job, so I came to take you home. Surprised?" "No, I thought you'd come," she said. "Hungry?" "Starved." "Where do you want to go? Want to get some coffee at the automat, or would you like chop suey?" No! "Child's?" "Yes, let's go to Child's and have butter cakes and coffee." He took her hand and drew her arm through his. "Francie, you seem so strange tonight. You're not mad at me, are you?" "No." "Glad I came?" "Yes," she said quietly. "It's good to see you, Ben." Oh, it was Ben the whole time. Oh my goodness. So many twists and turns in this story, huh? Chapter 56. Saturday, the last Saturday in their old home. The next day was Katie's wedding day, and they were going straight to their new home from the church. The movers were coming Monday morning for their stuff. They were leaving most of their furniture for the new janitress. They were taking only their personal belongings and the front room furniture. Francie wanted the green carpet with the big pink roses, the cream-colored lace curtains, and the lovely little piano. These things would be installed in the room set aside for Francie in their new home. Katie insisted on working as usual that last Saturday morning. They laughed when Mother set out with her broom and pail. McShane had given her a checking account with $1,000 in it as a wedding present. Ooh. According to Nolan's standards, Katie was rich now and didn't have to do another lick of work. Yet she insisted on working there that last day. Francie suspected that she had a sentimental feeling about the houses and wanted to give them a last good cleaning before she left. Shamelessly, Francie searched for the checkbook in her mother's purse and examined the only stub in the fabulous folder. Number 1, date 9/20/18. 2, Eva Flitman. 4, because she's my sister. Total $1,000. Amount this check $200. Balance forward $800. Francie wondered why that amount. Why not $50 or $500? Why $200? Then she understood. $200 was the amount Uncle Willie was insured for. What Evie would have collected had he died. No doubt Katie considered Willie as good as dead. No check had been made out for Katie's wedding dress. She explained that she didn't want to use any of that money for herself until after she had married the giver. In order to buy the dress, she had borrowed the money she had saved for Francie, promising to give her a check for it as soon as the ceremony was over. On that last Saturday morning, Francie strapped Lori into her two-wheeled sulky and took her down on the street. She stood on the corner for a long time watching the kids lug their junk up Manhattan Avenue to Carney's junk shop. Then she walked up that way and went into Cheap Charlie's during a lull in business. She put a 50-cent piece down on the counter and announced that she wanted to take all the picks. "Aw, now, Francie, gee, Francie," he said. "I don't have to bother picking, just give me all the stuff on the board." "Aw, listen!" "Then there aren't any prizes in that box, are there, Charlie?" "Christ, Francie, a feller has got to make a living, and it comes slow in this business. A penny at a time. I always thought those prizes were fake. You ought to be ashamed, fooling little kids that way." "Don't say that. I give them a penny's worth of candy for each cent they spend here. The pick is just so it's more interesting. And it makes them keep coming back, hoping. If they don't go here, they go across to Gimpy, see? And it's better they come in here because I'm a married man," he said virtuously, "and I don't take girls in my back room, see?" "Oh well, I guess there's something in what you say. Look, have you got a 50-cent doll?" He dredged up an ugly-faced doll from under the counter. "I only got a 69-cent doll, but I'll let you have it for 50 cents. I'll pay for it if you'll hang it up as a prize and let some kid win it." "But look, Francie, a kid wins it, all the kids expect to win then, see? It's a bad example." "Oh, for sweet Christ's sake," she said, not profanely, but prayerfully. "Let somebody win something just once." All right, don't get excited now. I just want one little kid to get something for nothing. I'll put it up and I won't take the number out of the box either after you go. Satisfied?" "Thanks, Charlie. And I'll tell the winner the doll's named Francie, see?" "Oh, no, you don't. Not with the face that doll's got." So let me see. It's an ugly face doll. Now I'm curious again. Yeah, I guess she's kind of ugly. "You know what, Francie?" "What?" "You're getting to be quite a girl. How old are you now?" "I'll be 17 in a couple of months." "I remember you used to be a skinny, long-legged kid. Well, I think you'll make a nice-looking woman someday. Not pretty, but something." "Thanks for nothing," she laughed. "Your kid's sister?" He nodded at Lori. "Uh-huh. First thing you know, she'll be lugging junk and coming in here with her pennies. One day they're babies in buggies and the next they're in here taking pics. Kids grow up quick in this neighborhood. She'll never lug junk, and she'll never come in here either." "That's right, I heard you're moving away." "Yes, we're moving away." "Well, the best of luck, Francie." She took Lori to the park, lifted her out of the sulky, and let her run around on the grass. A boy came by selling pretzels, and Francie bought one for a penny. She crumbled it into bits and scattered it on the grass. A flock of sooty sparrows appeared from nowhere and squabbled over the bits. Lori stumbled about trying to catch them. The bored birds let her get within inches of them before they lifted their wings and took off. The child screamed with delighted laughter each time a bird flew away. Pulling Lori along in the sulky, Francie went over for a last look at her old school. It was but a couple of blocks from the park, which she visited every day, but for some reason or other, Francie had never gone back to see it since the night she graduated. She was surprised at how tiny it seemed now. She supposed the school was just as big as it had ever been, only her eyes had grown used to looking at bigger things. "There's the school that Francie went to," she told Lori. "Franny went to school," agreed Lori. "Your papa came with me one day and sang a song." "Papa?" asked Lori, puzzled. "I forgot. You never saw your papa." Lori saw a papa. Man. Big man. She thought Francie meant McShane. "That's right," agreed Francie. In the 2 years since she had last looked on the school, Francie had changed from a child to a woman. She went home past the house whose address she had claimed. It looked little and shabby to her now, but she still loved it. She passed McGarrity's saloon. Only McGarrity didn't own it anymore. He had moved away early in the summer. He had confided in Neely that he, McGarity, was a man who had his ear to the ground and was therefore in a position to hear prohibition coming. He was getting all set for it, too. He bought a large place on the Hempstead Turnpike out on Long Island and was systematically stocking its cellars with liquor against the day. As soon as prohibition came, he was going to open up what he called a club. He had the name picked out. The club May Marie. His wife was going to wear an evening dress and be a hostess, which was right up her alley, McGarity explained. Francie was sure that Mrs. McGarity would be very happy as a hostess. I got excited there. She hoped that Mr. McGarity would be happy someday too. After lunch, she went around to the library to turn in her books for the last time. The librarian stamped her card and shoved it back to her without, as usual, looking up. "Could you recommend a good book for a girl?" asked Francie. "How old?" "She is 11. The librarian brought up a book from under her desk. Francie saw the title, If I Were King. "I don't really want to take it out," said Francie, "and I'm not 11 years old." The librarian looked up at Francie for the first time. "I've been coming here since I was a little girl," said Francie, "and you never looked at me till now." "There are so many children," said the librarian fretfully. "I can't be looking at each one of them. Anything else?" "I just want to say about that brown bowl, what it has meant to me, the flower always in it." The librarian looked at the brown bowl. There was a spray of pink wild aster in it. Francie had an idea that the librarian was seeing the brown bowl for the first time also. "Oh, that. The janitor puts the flowers in, or somebody. Anything else?" she asked impatiently. "I'm turning in my card." Francie pushed the wrinkled, dog-eared card, covered with stamped dates, across the desk. The librarian picked it up and was about to tear it in two when Francie took it back from her. "I guess I'll keep it after all," she said. She went out and took a long last look at the shabby little library. She knew she would never see it again. Eyes changed after they looked at new things. If in the years to be she were to come back, her new eyes might make everything seem different from the way she saw it now. The way it was now was the way she wanted to remember it. No, she'd never come back to the old neighborhood. Besides, in years to come, there would be no old neighborhood to come back to. After the war, the city was going to tear down the tenements and the ugly school where a woman principal used to whip little boys and build a model housing project on the site. A place of living where sunlight and air were to be trapped, measured, and weighed and doled out so much per resident. Katie banged her broom and pail in the corner with that final bang that meant she was through. Then she picked up her broom and pail again and replaced them gently. As she dressed to go out, she was going for a last-minute fitting of the jade green velvet dress she had chosen to be married in. She fretted because the weather was so mild for the end of September. She thought it might be too warm to wear a velvet dress. She was angry that the fall was so late in coming that year. She argued with Francie when Francie insisted that fall was here. Francie knew that autumn had come. Let the wind blow warm, let the days be heat hazy. Nevertheless, autumn had come to Brooklyn. Francie knew that this was so because now, as soon as night came and the streetlights went on, the hot chestnut man set up his little stand on the corner. On the rack above the charcoal fire, chestnuts roasted in a covered pan. The man held unroasted ones in his hand and made little crosses on them with a blunt knife before he put them in the pan. Yes, autumn had surely come when the hot chestnut man appeared, no matter what the weather said to the contrary. After Lori had been tucked into her crib for her afternoon nap, Francie packed a few last things in a wooden Fels naphtha soap box. From over the mantelpiece, she took down the crucifix and the picture of her and Neely on confirmation day. She wrapped these things in her first communion veil and placed them in the box. She folded her father's 2 waiter's aprons and put them in. She wrapped the shaving cup with the name John Nolan on it in gilt block letters, in a white georgette crepe blouse which Katie had put in the giveaway basket because its lace jabot had torn badly in the wash. It was the blouse Francie had worn that rainy night when she stood in the doorway with Lee. The doll named Mary and the pretty little box which had once held 10 gilded pennies were stowed away next. Her sparse library went into the box. the Gideon Bible, the complete works of William Shakespeare, a tattered volume of Leaves of Grass, the 3 scrapbooks, the Nolan volume of contemporary poetry, the Nolan book of classical poems, and the book of Annie Laurie. She went into the bedroom, turned back her mattress, and took from under it a notebook in which she had kept a desultory diary during her 13th year and a square manila envelope. Kneeling before the box, she opened the diary and read a random entry dated September 24th, 3 years ago. Tonight, when I took a bath, I discovered I was changing into a woman. It's about time. She grinned as she packed the diary in the box. She looked at the writing on the envelope. Contents: 1 sealed envelope to be opened in 1967. 1 diploma, 4 stories. A time capsule she made. 4 stories which Miss Gardner had told her to burn. Oh well. Francie remembered how she had promised God she'd give up writing if he wouldn't let Mother die. She had kept her promise. But she knew God a little better now. She was sure that he wouldn't care at all if she started to write again. Well, maybe she'd try someday. She added her library card to the contents of the envelope, made an entry for it on the envelope, and put that in the box. Her packing was finished. All her possessions except her clothes were in that box. Neely came running up the stairs whistling at the Darktown Strutter's Ball. He burst into the kitchen, peeling off his coat. I'm in a hurry, Francie. Have I got a clean shirt? There's 1 washed but not ironed. I'll iron it for you. She put the iron to heat while she sprinkled the shirt and set up the ironing board on 2 chairs. Neely got the shoe shine kit from the closet and proceeded to put a higher shine on his already flawlessly polished shoes. Going somewhere, she asked. Yep, just got time to catch the show. They've got Van and Shank, and boy, can Shank sing. He sits at the piano like this. Neely sat at the kitchen table and demonstrated. He sits sideways and crosses his legs, looking out at the audience. Then he leans his left elbow on the music rack and picks out the tune with his right hand while he sings. Neely went into a fair imitation of his idol, singing, When You're a Long, Long Way From Home. Yep, he's swell. Sings the way Papa used to, a little. Papa. Francie looked for the Union label in Neely's shirt and pressed that first. That label is like an ornament, like a rose that you wear. The Nolans sought for the Union label on everything they bought. It was their memorial to Johnny. Neely looked at himself in the glass hanging over the sink. Do you think I need a shave? He asked. Not for 5 years yet. Ah, shut up. Don't say shut up to each other, said Francie, imitating their mother. Neely smiled and proceeded to scrub his face, neck, arms, and hands. He sang as he washed. There's Egypt in your dreamy eyes, a bit of Cairo in your style. Francie ironed away contentedly. Neely was dressed at last. He stood before her in his dark blue, double-breasted suit, fresh white shirt with the soft turned-down collar, and a polka dot bow tie. He smelled fresh and clean from washing, and his curly blonde hair gleamed. How do I look, prima donna? He buttoned up his coat jauntily, and Francie saw that he wore their father's signet ring. It was true then, what Grandma had said, that the Romilly woman had the gift of seeing the ghosts of their beloved dead. Francie saw her father. Neely, do you still remember Molly Malone? He put a hand in his pocket, turned away from her, and sang, In Dublin's fair city, the girls are so pretty. Papa, Papa. Neely had the same clear, true voice. And how unbelievably handsome he was. So handsome that, even though he wasn't 16 years old yet, women turned to look after him with a sigh when he walked down the street. He was so handsome that Francie felt like a dark drab alongside of him. Neely, do you think I'm good looking? Look, why don't you make a novena to St. Teresa about it? I think a miracle might fix you up. No, I mean it. Why don't you get your hair cut off and wear it in curls like the other girls instead of those chunks wound around your head? I have to wait until I'm 18 on account of Mother, but do you think I'm good looking? Ask me again when you fill out a little more. Please tell me. He examined her carefully, then said, You'll pass. She had to be satisfied with that. He had said that he was in a hurry, but now he seemed reluctant to go. Francie, Dad, will be here for supper tonight. I'm working afterwards. Tomorrow will be the wedding and a party in the new house tomorrow night. Monday I have to go to school, and while I'm there, you'll be getting on that Wolverine train for Michigan. There'll be no chance to say goodbye to you alone, so I'll just say goodbye now. I'll be home for Christmas, Neely, but it won't be the same. I know. He waited. Francie extended her right hand. He pushed her hand aside, put his arms around her, and kissed her on the cheek. Francie clung to him and started to cry. He pushed her away. Gee, girls make me sick, he said, always so mushy. But his voice was ragged, as though he too was going to cry. He turned and ran out of the flat. Francie went out into the hallway and watched him run down the steps. He paused in the well of darkness at the foot of the stairs and turned to look back up at her. Although it was dark, there was brightness where he stood. So like Papa, she thought, but he had more strength in his face than Papa had had. He waved to her, then he was gone. Oh, here's a picture of them hugging. So that's Neely and Francie. And the iron sitting there. I hope it's cool. And the stove. So sweet. Okay. Just a little bit more. Just like a few pages. Hope you're all hanging in there okay. Wrapping up all the loose ends, it looks like. 4 o'clock. Francie decided to go to get dressed first and then fix supper so that she'd be all ready when Ben came to call for her. He had tickets and they were going to see Henry Hull in The Man Who Came Back. It was their last date until Christmas because Ben was leaving for college tomorrow. She liked Ben. She liked him an awful lot. She wished that she could love him. If only he wasn't so sure of himself all the time. If only he'd stumble once. If only he needed her. Oh well. She had 5 years to think it over. She stood before the mirror in her white slip. As she curved her arm over her head in washing, she remembered how she had sat on the fire escape as a little girl and watched the big girls in the flats across the yards getting ready for their dates. Was someone watching her as she had once watched? She looked toward the window. Yes, across 2 yards she saw a little girl sitting on a fire escape with a book in her lap and a bag of candy at hand. The girl was peering through the bars at Francie. Francie knew the girl, too. She was a slender little thing of 10, and her name was Florrie Wendy. Francie brushed out her long hair, braided it, and wound the braids around her head. She put on fresh stockings and white, high-heeled pumps. Before she slipped a fresh pink linen dress over her head, she sprinkled violet sachet powder on a square of cotton and tucked it inside her brassiere. She thought she heard Fraber's wagon come in. She leaned out the window and looked. Yes, the wagon had come in. Only it wasn't a wagon anymore. It was a small maroon motor truck with a name in gilt letters on the sides, and the man making preparations to wash it wasn't Frank, a nice young man with rosy cheeks. He was a little bandy-legged, draft-exempt fellow. She looked across the yards and saw that Florrie was still staring at her through the bars of the fire escape. Francie waved and called, "Hello, Francie." "My name ain't Francie," the little girl yelled back. "It's Florrie, and you know it too." "I know," said Francie. She looked down into the yard. The tree whose leaf umbrellas had curled around, under, and over her fire escape had been cut down because the housewives complained that wash on the lines got entangled in its branches. The landlord had sent 2 men and they had chopped it down. But the tree hadn't died. It hadn't died. A new tree had grown from the stump, and its trunk had grown along the ground until it reached a place where there were no wash lines above it. Then it had started to grow toward the sky again. Annie, the fir tree that the Nolans had cherished with waterings and manurings, had long since sickened and died. But this tree in the yard, this tree that men chopped down, this tree that they built a bonfire around trying to burn up its stump, this tree lived. It lived, and nothing could destroy it. Once more she looked at Florrie Wendy reading on the fire escape. "Goodbye, Francie," she whispered. She closed the window. Phew. That's the end of the actual book. And here's the afterword. What do you think? What a story, huh? Such an amazing story. Okay, let's read the afterword. Since we're here. I don't remember this afterword, but it's only a few pages. And this afterword is not by... Oh my gosh! What a time to get a raid. Okay.
You took an arrow to
Oh my goodness.
have tea. Oh, tea.
Okay. Hey Barbs, how are you? Backpack Barbs is rating with 29 viewers. Good to see you guys. Welcome in, Backpack Barbs. How are you doing? What were you streaming? I missed the whole thing. I've probably been streaming the whole time while you were on. While we were finishing up this book, and like we literally just finished the last page when you guys came in. It was I've lost the name. It's A Tree Grows in Brooklyn. I was so excited by you getting here. I completely forgot the name of the book. We were just about to read the afterword. And let me do a shout out for Backpack Barbs in case anybody does not know her. Backpack Barbs, a big friend of the stream, and I did not spell it right. There we go. You finished building the Lego cat. Oh, that's awesome. That sounds like it was really fun and cute. So everybody, hi, welcome in. My name is Gail. If you don't know me, or you can call me Oolong, that's the name of the channel, Oolong Crossing. And we literally just finished this book seconds before you guys arrived. Let's go back to our table here. This is the book. I've kind of finished the tea as well, and the kettle shut off, so I don't even have any more hot water. And that's okay because the tea kind of steeped out, but I'll give you a very quick rundown. This is some tea that my boss's boss brought me from Taiwan. She went there on business trip, so the CEO of my company, and she got this beautiful red oolong tea, and it's like some kind of, competition grade tea, and it really is a very, very nice, high quality tea. And it was much darker than this when we started drinking it, but you can still get a feel for it. Delicious, lovely. We've been having some of this panettone that's limoncello flavored, basically lemon. And I have just finished reading this book. So I'll be putting these streams on, the VODs are always on Twitch. They're going to be there for a while. This is part 6 of 6, or episode 6. Turns out there won't be an episode 7. I was planning to do one more, but we got so close to the end that we just powered through and just finished it. I have been putting these also on my YouTube channel. If you want to catch up from the beginning, part 1 and 2 are already on there, and a link just popped up into the chat. So I have a fairly new channel. I think I have fewer than 20 videos on there, but go have fun. Subscribe if you would. Appreciate it. And I've got, I think there's a playlist called Tea and Book Reading or something. So you can go check that out and start from the beginning. And I'll be adding more as we go along. And so I was just about to sit down, or I'm sitting down. Hello, what am I saying? I was just about to start reading the afterword to the book, which I don't think I've ever really read before. Hey, Pilot Toast, how are you doing? Thanks for the little emotes. Let me make sure I didn't miss anybody. Did I do 2 shout outs? Oh, Texas probably did one. Thanks for that. Okay. So let me just, this probably will give some background on the story, which I did not realize was a true story until this, sometime in the midst of reading this go round. The Promise of the Poor, an afterword by Alfred Kazin, one of America's preeminent literary critics. Alfred Kazin is himself the author of a book about Brooklyn, A Walker in the City, a memoir of his youth in the Brownsville section of that borough. Okay, well, we'll skip his bio and just go right to it here. Brooklyn is, of course, a very large section of the densely populated city of New York. It contains one of the largest Catholic dioceses in the world. But Brooklyn by itself, just Brooklyn, stands out in the vast register of American experiences. It is immediately recognizable as a plebeian, rough, common, yet lovable. Plebeian, rough, common, yet lovable. In the minds of countless people, the very word is linked to unforgettable, early family experience. Somehow Brooklyn has come to stand for early poverty and neighborliness, for youth itself. And by the same process, it symbolizes longing, aspiration, the dream of another and better world. Brooklyn is not the center of anything, says the novelist Norman Mailer, who is not a native but lives in Brooklyn Heights, the beautiful neighborhood facing Manhattan across the East River, a neighborhood untypical of the rest of Brooklyn. For all its fantastic views of the harbor and its villagey charm, Even the Heights is not the center of anything. But Brooklyn is its own center, a constellation of ethnic enclaves, all essentially foreign to each other, where one can grow up knowing nothing but a specific neighborhood. Years ago, when I still lived there, I made the mistake of asking a tough taxi driver outside the venerable Hotel St. George if he wouldn't make better time to LaGuardia Airport by avoiding Manhattan. He looked me up and down, then said something perfectly understandable to a native of Brooklyn. What Manhattan? It is this separateness that keeps Brooklyn a faraway place in time, if not in space. My ancient village is how I like to think of it, lost in the tides of progress. Of course, this is not literally true, but something archaic and provincial sticks to Brooklyn in the works of many famous writers. And in some way, A Tree Grows in Brooklyn, the intensely autobiographical first novel of an Irish-German girl from the Williamsburg section, has come to stand for the whole place. One reason for the book's startling success since 1943 is that its title conveys perfectly the beauty and poignancy made possible in a tenement by a tree growing in the backyard. Imagine it, a tree in Brooklyn of all places. I'm not going to read these excerpts from the book itself, because we read the book. The tree provides living proof that life cannot be defeated. The tenement folk in the book cannot be defeated. The tree is that great and obstinate figure, the ailanthus. Its origins are Asiatic, tropical. Its bark is bitter to the taste, and its greenish flowers decidedly do not smell good. It is the city tree, rough and hard, and above all, tough. When young Francie Nolan comes back from the public library with a book, she can't wait to arrange herself on the fire escape, which she thinks of as a kind of tree. The tree is the center of everything that is life to Francie. Through the tree, with the tree, because of the tree, little Francie, growing up in desperate poverty, has a fix on another kind of life, one born of a child's longing and aspiration. The tree is the conductor of Francie's imagination. It secures and expands her senses, awakens her curiosity, brings into focus that which is continually playing itself out all around her. Without Francie to notice, things could get lost. You know what? I don't think I'm going to read the rest of this because it's basically just analysis of the book. But I'm going to go ahead and skip to the end. Yeah? It's like a book report. Kind of like, oh, here's an excerpt from the book. Here's what it means. Francie and Neely get the tree. The tree man eulogized them by screaming, oh, this is the when they get the Christmas tree thrown at them so that they can win it for free. Francie and Neely get the tree. The tree man eulogized them by screaming, and now get the hell out of here with your tree, you lousy bastards. The resemblance to the Passion is very marked. After all, one of the great teachings of the world was provided by Christianity. While the poor are always with us, in them resides what virtue is left to our rotten, lousy world. But Francie is not a saint, nor does she aspire to be one. She means, above all else, though she does not know it as yet, to become a writer. And that she did under her real name of Betty Smith. A Tree Grows in Brooklyn became one of the best-selling novels of its era. It is a rare, lonely, infinitely touching book. For fullest appreciation, it probably helps to have been, just once upon a time, a little poor yourself. Or as the good book says, poor in spirit. Okay, yeah. That's a bit self-serving. It's a bit smug. But I can relate to the book because I did not grow up with money. And, still kind of don't really have that much money. But, I can relate to a lot of this. My parents were third generation. And my grandparents were second generation. So, like, one generation after this, basically. And so they would be... So my grandparents would be like Francie's generation. Yeah, my dad and mom were born the next generation after that. So, there's a lot of themes that are discussed and situations and things that didn't really change, for a while after that. But some that never change. Some things never change. So, okay, now we're ready to raid. Let's go. I'll see you over there and have a wonderful week to come. Take care, everybody. See you later. Bye-bye.